I'm actually okay with some sort of gun registration, just so we can kind of keep track of where a lot of these guns are. Would you, Root?
No.
Nope.
You're not gonna okay.
This
You
is
finish
Floyd's
your
time.
All right,
you finish
okay.
your thoughts,
Okay.
Lloyd.
When you see me call him down, just
Okay.
just keep don't pet the dog.
Don't bet the
Not
dog.
the dog.
We've learned that tonight. Don't bet the dog.
You're listening to Slightly Uncomfortable. Are you ready?
Welcome to Slightly Uncomfortable. We have in the house tonight one Mr. Root
Yup.
and Lloyd.
Hello.
He made the cut.
He did. You know, we did a panel interview,
Yeah.
and he brought bourbon, so we hired him. That's what.
That's pretty much what
I
it
was
came
really
down to.
sweating it, but I'm glad I made the cut.
And you know, when I said hire, now he's thinking he's going to get paid.
Well, yeah. Well, and if you think about it, we're down here in James's basement.
Chateau
which is-
Jams.
yeah, okay, that too. And he's supplied some. He's supplied his own juice, and we're forever
No,
grateful.
we're
for
talking
the
about
juice that he
bourbon when you
brought.
say that. Because, see, non-bourbon drinkers
That's
don't know
true.
what you mean
That's
when
true.
there's three men in the basement having juice.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll
That's true.
take orange, please.
Oh, it's cute that you think that's what
So-
they're thinking.
So I've brought Heaven Hill 6-year-old in,
Stonehammer.
and I also did bring Stonehammer in.
I think I lost an esophagus. to
Is,
that.
is there a dwarf on the with a beard on the top of that Stonehammer?
Oh, no self-respecting dwarf is going to be anywhere near Stonehammer. Alex has brought us Old Forester, but Lloyd here shows up with the Screaming Chicken 101,
Oh, I will.
and
And if there's anything that is common in our podcast, a common thread, it's going to be the bourbon.
absolutely,
Yes.
And Lloyd is not a huge bourbon drinker
No, I'm not.
but he knows what
Yet.
to bring to a party.
yet.
Yeah.
And we will turn him.
Uh,
As far as bourbon drinking goes, nothing else.
The night is young. The night is
Nothing
young.
else.
the night's not that young. We'll turn you to a bourbon drinker, but nothing.
I'm just
else.
saying that Lloyd, just so you know, he gets a little handsy with Alex every once in a while.
Alex is a handsome man.
And we keep saying that. And
Yes,
it makes me
yes.
uncomfortable.
But he is.
We're going to get the wrong idea.
No, I think that's the right idea. And sadly,
right.
it scares us all.
He's got these fancy scarves and fancy socks and
So,
oh my
so
goodness.
tonight's topic, other than creeping the hell out of everybody,
How about them bears?
those aren't pillows.
Those aren't pillows.
that movie reference I get.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about an extremely huge topic, and we're going to do our
A
best
whole damn list of them.
to tackle this. And this is probably the most challenging topic that I think that we try to cover.
Yeah, it's
and
easy.
that is, we're going to say as a general idea is politics. And on a more, we're going to have a list of items that we're going to cover that are pretty much a hot button topic during this time. And it has honestly has been
For
forever.
generations. Yeah.
I mean, I remember watching All in the Family, and the same shit we're talking about now was talked about in '77 with Archie Bunker.
exactly.
It wasn't fixed then, hadn't been fixed yet.
And I wonder why. We might get into that too.
I don't know. You know, hopefully, maybe the administrations that we you know, that govern us may listen to our podcast. Maybe we could send it to Mitch or Donald or any of these folks and say, hey, Bernie Sanders, take a listen to this. Hey, Elizabeth Warren, have you thought about this?
Hey, Andy Barr.
We're going to solve a lot of the country's problems right here, right now.
Right now.
Hey, Rand Paul, while you're not getting tackled off your lawnmower, have you thought about this?
Hey,
While
is
you're-
what's that asshole up in Louisville? Is it Yarmouth? John? Jim? Asshole.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Oh,
His name is
God.
our name too.
Yeah. Anyway, that guy. Yeah, I'd send it to him too.
Yeah, Rand Paul, while you're nursing your ribs back to health, you could listen to our podcast.
From when the doctor T-bones you in your backyard. Anyway, so we're going to go through this list, and it's one that we've all agreed on, and we've done some show prep, and
Some of us have.
Well, the talent hasn't,
Now, the talent.
Talent don't need to.
or so he thinks.
Skill position.
So I'm going
baby.
to throw out these topics. I'm going to be the show's moderator. Moderator.
God help him.
I got new teeth this week. and wild turkey tonight.
He's still breaking them in.
So and here's the thing: is we're going to respect one another's opinion. At the end of this night, you know what? I've already told the guys prior to the show that I'm on the fence about a few of these things. I may not argue them like I am because it doesn't make for good podcasting.
Yeah.
But I am on the fence. And I think, honestly, in a lot of these things, if folks aren't on the fence, maybe they're not paying attention because they're far more vast than a political affiliation or the way we were raised. Because by the time you get to be our age, and our age in this room is going to be 50-ish, you can't no longer say it's because I was raised that way. Because at some
Right.
point you have the ability and the responsibility
To think for yourself.
absolutely and know what the difference between right and wrong is.
Yeah.
And so, without further ado, our first
Oh,
topic.
Big fancy words.
I've
coming
used
from
it in
Mr.
another
Moderator.
podcast because I read it. I was pooping one day,
Oh, here we go.
and my internet wasn't working, so I just did a dictionary. But anyway, the first
For
topic
toilet paper, probably.
is gun control.
All right.
And I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Root because he just sat up 3 inches higher. He either farted or has something to
He
say.
is ready.
Many of the times it's one and the same.
And I think in a previous podcast, I actually pulled one out right here on a pistol. It was a weapon.
You know, and I got a little uncomfortable.
I noticed.
I mean, I went from an Audi to an Innie. So gun control,
Got a little sphinctered up.
I did. I haven't pooped yet. I mean, we recorded that one last week. I'm still a little bound up.
Yeah.
So,
he's been walking funny.
So, Root, the fact that you're watching me walk, we'll not talk about. Please start.
You don't walk like Alex, but you know,
Oh,
I just had to do it.
it's not that he's gay. It's just he has gay friends.
I am perfectly confident and comfortable in my sexuality. So.
A little bit too comfortable. Please continue.
Yeah, you know. Firearms, cars, lawnmowers. It's personal property, and it's so long as I wield the rake in my garden and don't endanger anyone, I should be able to own anything I want. The Constitution, the Second Amendment, says the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Pretty clear language. The one thing that I think that we lose sight of sometimes in our Constitution is these are not rights guaranteed by the government. These are rights that are acknowledged, that are given to us by God. The Constitution is a defensive document aimed to defend the people from the government. In my mind, the founders put that amendment in there. That would be Madison and Company.
It's like a trio. It's like Electric Company, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
That's up Broadway by Macy's, right? Madison and Company.
It's a jewelers.
The jewelers, yes. He went to Madison and Company.
Oh, they're gems. They are gems. I'll give you that.
Please continue. We're going to try our damnedest to keep this lighthearted. It's not. It's
It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough.
This is not and God love Lloyd. This is his first real show.
Yeah.
And we're tackling this shit.
Yeah.
This is heavy stuff.
We could have talked about communication. Oh, you missed that one.
Oh, you did miss that one. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Welcome aboard, bro.
So in a brief,
Yeah.
3-sentence statement, what's your thoughts on gun control?
Gun control could be nuclear weapon control. If I'm not hurting anybody and with whatever I own, I should be able to own it. The gun control debate has spiraled away from that basic premise of whether or not an individual can own a certain piece of property. This particular piece of property is a firearm. I've carried weapons to varying degrees all of my life, whether it's the pocket knife, and for a Kentuckian, that's as ubiquitous as carrying a stick of gum, or firearms.
Actually, Kentuckians don't carry a whole lot of gum.
Well, that's true.
We're more likely to have a firearm
Or a tobacco twist, or,
Yeah,
or something like that.
we ain't carrying gum.
Yeah, but I have no issue with people carrying whatever it is they want to carry. What I want to see is for people to be held accountable for their own behavior. and that behavior, and this is reaching out a little bit on how we see firearm control today. You know, all the mass shootings that we've seen of late have been people whose eyes were a little bit too close together. You know, there's always been some kind of
White people. Every damn
Largely.
one of them been
Sadly.
You're thinking more of a mental health issue.
right. But
white people.
and
Every one of them.
when I say that folks should be held accountable for their own behavior, brothers, I'm telling you right now, if I start acting crazy, one or both of you are going to come to my wife and say, you need to check on him.
We're not certain that she's alive. I mean, you keep speaking of her, but we've never seen her. She may be held captive.
No,
we don't know.
No, if anybody's held captive in my house, it's me.
I've never seen her out of the house. I've seen you out of the house a bunch.
Because I've been told to leave the house. That's why.
He says he has guns. I think she may be the one with guns.
Or he has guns because of her.
There may be some truth there, but yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is self-policing,
absolutely. And
brother's keeper.
and self-policing your families. If everybody's got a crazy uncle, whether it is 2 generations back or right the hell now, and we need to take care of these people. And simply because they can, because they're of age or whatever, simply because they can go buy firearms, doesn't mean that they should. Now, everybody just raised their hands and said amen, but I don't think the government should be enforcing that. That's on families. So when Billy Joe Bob goes out here and
Why you got to talk about my family?
We got to drag good old Billy Joe Ball into
I
it.
mean, he's perfectly fine.
yeah,
He
his
walks
eyes are a little close
He
together.
walks
It
with
looks
a
a little
limp. You
funny.
leave him alone.
You leave him alone in his trailer, he's fine.
Right. Until he shoots up a bunch
Unless
of people.
there's a storm, and then he gets to running. Now, because he's in that decoy trailer out for the tornadoes.
Yes.
He got the free trailer because he lives in the
I
decoy.
see how it is, yeah. But when Billy Joe Bob goes out and buys an AR or or an M14 or whatever,
Any of those numbers and letters
he
put
can.
together.
Semi-automatic firearm, he can absolutely go buy it, but it's on that family then to say, what are you doing?
Okay, all right. I think that now I'm going to throw it to Lloyd.
Okay.
We've heard Root's perspective.
And I got plenty more.
Oh, we know, and that's James.
Oh, here I go. Here I go.
It's only a 3-hour tour.
A 3-hour tour.
Ginger.
The Constitution is very clear that, any person in the country that's not a felon has the right to bear arms. A lot of that was not only, I think, for personal protection, but also protection against a government that was out of control. So I don't think that we should infringe on that. I'm actually okay with some sort of gun registration, just so we can kind of keep track of where a lot of these guns are. Would you, Root?
No.
Nope.
This
You're not
is
gonna
okay.
let-
This
You
is
finish
Lloyd's
your,
time.
All right,
you finish your thoughts,
okay.
Lloyd.
When you see me call him down, just
Okay.
just keep don't pet the dog.
Don't bet the
Not
dog.
dog.
We've learned that tonight. Don't bet the dog. I find it ironic that a lot of the same people that are just dead set against gun control are the same ones that have armed guards around them at all times. It's like, oh, it's okay for your protectors to have guns, but not a common person. I think it would be a good thing if most households had a gun. Criminals do not follow law, so no law against guns is going to take guns away from criminals. But I know that the criminals will definitely find an easier target if they think that there are no guns in a home, if they're going to go steal or whatever. So, I'm a little on the fence on some things as far as the registration and stuff, but, for the most part, I'm definitely, for access to guns because it's in the Constitution. It's a right.
Okay, so I'm going to take my stab at this.
Have at it. Don't stammer too much.
I would
though,
agree.
'cause we're on the clock.
I would agree that you're talking to me about stammering. First 3 words I was at every time is, but that was I nailed Roots.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you
impersonation
did.
right there.
That was well done.
I had not even practiced that. So gun control. I'm going to agree with both of y'all and me
You
too.
fucking coward.
All right, but sell out. No, it's called bonding a bridge, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely believe in the right to bear arms. I believe in the constitutional. We are all constitutionally. We have the right to bear an arm, but I think when that was written, arms looked a lot different than they do now. So, I have no issue at all with folks having firearms. I've grown up with firearms. We all have. You don't grow up in Kentucky without having access and having some basis in firearms. It's not. Here's the thing that I think is amazing for us as opposed to maybe the South, and many of us will have the same mindset. Is firearms has never been a big deal to us,
Right.
Because we've always had them.
Right.
They've always been in our house. Our parents taught us to respect them. We went out shooting with our parents, our siblings,
Hunting.
our cousins, whatever the case may be. We've always been around them.
Right.
It's never been a thing, ever.
It's no taboo. For
Right,
us.
it's not. And we've always had them in our homes. I have them in my home now, not to the same degree I have in the past, but yeah, I do have them, and I have no fear of them.
They're tools.
So I don't think there's anything at all wrong with that. I'm not even a big proponent of registration of firearms. I don't think it really matters because all you're doing is having law-abiding citizens tell you where their firearms are.
Exactly.
And as you spoke to, Lloyd, people that are going to break laws are not going to register their firearms. So that doesn't help anything to me. Background checks, yeah, I think that may have a semblance of help. I still don't think it helps because the people that we spoke about when Root mentioned something about mass shootings and stuff, they all passed the litmus test. They all passed the test. My only issue is with Lloyd's is he's absolutely right. Have your guns, keep them where you want to, deal with them the way you want to until you fucking snap. And not everybody around you may see that coming. As we've seen with these mass shootings, we've got people that have always been good folk until they weren't. And when I was a kid, that same stuff happened. But what happened is that person that lost their shit, that stopped acting like a rational human being, they went out to a fucking field somewhere and shot their head off.
Right.
They bit a gun and they were done.
Right.
What happens today is those same people go to a mall
Or
a movie theater
Or a school.
or a bar or a school. Because now, for some dumbass reason, be it social media, be it the press, whatever the case may be, they want to be famous, going out in a blaze of glory. Now, that's our big problem that I see. It's not necessarily guns. It's people's access to those guns that are going to make bad decisions. And to Root's point, if we could see a steady migration, then yeah, the families and the friends and the people around them could stop it. But what we're seeing today is not a steady migration. It is a snap. Wait, it's a snap. So
He just snapped his fingers and pointed at me.
I did. Because I've been dealing with a dog and he
He's a
started to
little
act
short.
up.
He's a little short.
But so I guess I'm a hybrid. Is yes, I think we absolutely deserve and have a right to have guns. We do. I don't know that we need to access the unabridged access to firearms, any and all. I don't think that we have the right to have a nuclear weapon. I don't think that we do. I don't think that's a right. Although an option, I don't believe that's a right that was spoken about in the Constitution because they had no idea the breadth of that back then. I'm not done yet. Still have my time.
I got dibs. I got dibs.
Yeah.
They had no idea the breadth of that when they wrote that sentence, that part of the Constitution.
It's called an amendment.
Well, whatever. But yeah, we have the right to defend ourselves. We have the right to defend our family. We do not necessarily have the right to have the ability to kill 30 people in 30 minutes or 30 seconds. We don't have that right. And I don't know that we should. Now, granted, the criminals may. I'm not doubting that.
Have the right?
No, they have the ability to do that. Because what we're talking about is legislation that will keep gun violence down. That's what we're talking about. Because the reason why this has become a hot hot topic now is because of the mass shootings that we've experienced in the last 10 years, right? The fact that we had so many during the Obama administration and we've had so many during the Trump administration, it's not slowing down. It started with school shootings. Now we have bars. Now we have malls. Now we have more schools. Now we have churches. There has got to be something. Now, do we arm everybody? Maybe. You know what? Because I guarantee you, if somebody thinks that everybody sitting in that bar has got a sidearm, they're much less likely to go in that bar and shoot the place up. So I really don't know where I stand on this. What I do know is this. What we are doing right now doesn't work. And if we keep doing what doesn't work, people are going to be victimized that had no hand in this. The folks at that school, the folks at that church, the folks at that nightclub had no hand in that. And, you know, the whole gun control issue is, yeah, we can talk about the back and forth between the parties and all that. Yeah. At the end of the day, this shit ain't working. We need to figure out a way to fix it. I don't have that way. But I will tell you that governing one another, I don't know that's going to work because we're all fucked up.
Amen.
And the folks that I know down this road that has always been nice until they're not, I can't do anything about. Because we don't live in a society anymore to where you know your neighbor the way you used to.
Unfortunately.
We don't live in a society that you know the folks you work with to the level that you used to.
And that is it my turn yet?
You can go right ahead. Dan, I want to tell you what, the reason I said yes is I thought he was going to have an aneurysm. He was going to have an aneurysm.
There was a vein popping out of his forehead.
Yes.
I'm not angry.
He keeps saying to himself.
Yes. That a lot to unpack there, James. A lot to unpack. I'm going to go first off to the nuclear weapon thing.
Of course he is.
Because it is outrageous, right?
Well, because I was speaking to an extreme.
Exactly.
Because that is a weapon,
It
and
is.
we have the right to bear arms.
And
that's a broad statement.
And
I've just bared them.
some,
My arms are literally bared right now. I'm not wearing sleeves.
something else James said as associated with that thought was there is no way that James Madison, who wrote the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, just don't try. Just don't try, James. The
Degree in history.
no degree in history, but to say that they couldn't possibly understand the kind of firearms that we have today. Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. But historically,
You're welcome.
yes. Thank you very little. Historically, it is. I don't think anybody could argue that those Americans who wrote those amendments were writing them in the face of defeating the largest military force on the planet at the time.
That they knew.
Okay. The sun never sets on the British Empire was kind of the moniker at the time. It was the largest military force
He just
on the
had the
planet.
look on his face like going, is that what we're going to hear? Is this what we're doing?
But
Is this it?
you know, yes, they were talking about flintlocks and they were talking about artillery and flintlock pistols. Fine. The purpose of that amendment, though, was to give the people a means to defend themselves against a tyrannical government. So, if that's the case, and we might argue that. Give me a moment. And
I'm not refuting that.
Okay.
I would give you total props on that. I would agree.
So if that is the
Would
case,
you agree, Lloyd?
Yes.
Lloyd nodded off. We need to make sure he stays engaged. Because if he don't
it
stay
must be
engaged,
something with the chair.
well, it is. Do you have a scarf in your car?
Don't show me that scarf. I'll go home with you. But if that is the case, then I want my M60. I want my M240. I want my rocket launcher.
May I?
I want my mortar. Oh, I want a mortar.
No.
Really, I want my self-propelled 155 millimeter howitzer.
All right, so here's the difference is, I agree with you, but I disagree. Because the key word that you said was I want. Not that you need, you want it. And here's the thing, when you're talking about something that of mass destruction to other people, is there's a difference in my mind between what you want and what you need. Do you need it to defend your house? Do you need it to defend your property and your family? No, you don't.
The M60,
You want it. You don't need it.
I don't need it to defend my home because we're in Podunk here in Kentucky. I don't need it to defend my home there. I've got plenty of firearms already to
And
take
I
care
think
of that
that's
problem.
the
No, I
argument.
have 0 firearms at the house. They were all lost in a tragic paper airplane accident.
But my thing of it is, Americans have a difficulty with what they want and what they need.
Granted.
And if you're talking about your wants, raise the potential. And what we have seen through the last 10, 15 years, the opportunity for mass destruction. I think it's okay. It's not asking too much to give up your want for the greater good.
And I did use the word, and I kind of fell into that, but I'm glad I gave you the opportunity to say
You're
your
welcome.
point.
That's why I do what I do.
Again, a skill position.
I'm
over
a
here.
great. I'm a fisherman. I'm a fisherman.
It's getting hot in here.
But
Take off all that clothes. No,
No, let's not.
just
just
start with the scarf. You know, I had to go there.
It's
man.
very. I need a weapon of mass destruction to keep your ass off Alex.
But if the purpose of that amendment is for the people to have the ability to defend themselves against tyrannical government, then they need to have the capability to own the weapons that tyrannical government's going to use against them.
Do we have a tyrannical government? Have we had a tyrannical government in the last 150 years?
I would say that some of the people in government could turn that way.
I'm saying,
And-
if we're talking about I'm talking about the history. Do we serve or do we have a tyrannical government now?
Does not mean we won't have one in the future.
150 years. Have we ever?
150 or 250?
Whatever. Really? I mean, you can talk about.
I think we're getting closer.
if we have aliens land, then we need.
I mean,
I wore the shirt on purpose.
If we have aliens land, then we need weapons. But we have not ever had aliens land in our lifetime.
but you know the history of the world is that sort of government. Like, you know, the United States is a rare setup. So the history of all these other countries are that someone comes in, takes over. You have dictators. You have people wanting to start wars. So even though our basis of of things is here in the United States, the history of the world shows that does happen.
But it's never happened here. Not once.
1860. It was attempted.
Yeah.
And
And we're now in 2019. So if we are basing our principles off of 1860 lore,
no. I'm basing my principles off of 1760 lore. The question is, where do we draw that line?
I think, but I would agree with you. There is a question
And
as to where we draw that line. But at some point, we got to fucking draw the line.
Amen.
And right now, we don't have a line.
I think we crossed that line. I think that line has been crossed. The average American right now is paying more taxes to the federal government than we were in 1774.
But we can't broaden this to the point of being taxation. We've got to talk about
That's
gun
just the
control.
starting point.
We got to talk about gun control. And
but-
right now, from what I've seen, just in my ignorant perspective,
Not ignorant.
we do have to pass a background check to get a gun. We do.
You don't.
It's nominal. You can go to the damn gun show and get whatever you want.
Exactly.
I can go on Craigslist, get whatever I want.
Exactly.
So I don't see any gun control in my vantage point, other than if you get pulled over with a gun, conceal and carry, all that shit. I lived out in Arizona for 5 years. It was open carry state. I would go to the mall and see an AK-47 on somebody's shoulder,
Dumbest thing you've ever
going
seen.
into Claire's to get earrings.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, that was a sobering experience for me, because I have never been over at the pizza place at the mall and had to stand behind somebody that was carrying a semi-automatic weapon. Is that the answer? I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying that we're getting to the point of being extreme to where I'm concerned.
So am I.
And at some point, we've got to find a balance in this, and we can't let the NRA dictate every damn thing that goes on, because there's zealots. Anytime you find zealots, you lose reason, whether it's religious zealots or political zealots or whatever. I'm not saying they don't have some basis in fact, and some stuff I don't agree with, but they are zealots because they have a mindset that no matter what, their philosophy is going to be continued.
And the zealots are on both sides
Absolutely.
of this thing.
We've got to find a medium ground.
Yeah.
And if that means giving up a want, then give up the fucking want.
I am not prepared. I've never been prepared to
All right, the dog is like playing fetch with herself at this point.
I am not prepared to allow state, local, federal government to tell me what property I can own.
And I understand that because that's the libertarian coming out in you.
It is.
And it is.
And it's frankly the Kentuckian coming out in me.
And I have Kentuckian in me too. Mm-hmm. I think there are some things that we can incorporate that would be voluntary, that would limit things, because the people that I know that have firearms, Root being the exception.
Because I have none. They were all lost in that
I
tragic
don't want
paper
to piss
airplane
off
accident.
the crazy guy on the show. But the people I know that have firearms in Kentucky probably don't have the money to afford those firearms. The vast majority of them. I think if the government offered a buyback program for the firearms at market value, I'm not talking about taking a loss, I'm talking about market value, then you would decrease the volume of firearms. Now, I'm not saying to do it with pistols. I'm not saying to do it with 30-30s or 12 gauges or whatever you use to hunt and protect your house with. I don't care about that. I'm talking about the extremes. Buy that shit back. Give them the right money for it. God knows we waste enough money on federal programs that we don't need to worry about the buyback program. All right, so enough of that.
Nope. I got more to
No,
say.
no.
I got more to say.
You calm your
I
whore.
ain't done yet.
You calm your whore ass down.
Come on now.
So we're going to try to keep this as brief as we can.
You're right. You're right.
You know, trying to moderate these fuckers is like trying to herd cats.
I'm sorry. Please continue.
So the next topic, hey, this is not going to be any easier. Jesus Christ. And I'm the one that came up with this list.
Yeah, you did.
Fuck you. Fuck you
did,
for this.
yeah.
So
by
the next topic is border security,
Oh boy.
parentheses, the wall.
All right.
So I'm going to go and throw it to Lloyd first.
All right.
Because that old boy, since I have known him these 25 years, that fucker has been ready to talk about the wall ever since I met him.
I've known him for about 2.5 hours, and yeah, he just exudes the wall.
He
doesn't
does. Please, Lloyd.
It all stems from my love of the musical, the album, The Wall. See, going back to Floyd.
Little fist
See?
bump over here,
See?
Pink
Going back
Floyd.
to
Yeah, James.
Yeah.
James.
Yeah.
This is a musical man. Right?
Yeah, he's musical.
He's musical.
I rooped with him for a while. He's musical.
I'm very musical.
His body's a fucking orchestra and not. So, Lloyd, please tell us your thoughts about border security and the wall.
All right. I think everyone in this country should agree that we need to secure the border, whether that's a wall or fences or the army or barbed wire, whatever.
Barbed wire.
Barbed wire.
Whenever we see that people are coming into this country that we don't know who they are, we don't know their intentions, there needs to be, places where they can come in, we can check them out. They don't need to be just coming in unfiltered. I don't know why it's such a big problem in this country to get that done. I mean, that's something that should be done 50 years ago, really. It's just been a political thing this whole time. Currently what they're asking for the wall is just a very small amount, and it's all because of politics that they don't want to approve now the money for the wall. So, I don't know how anyone could argue that we don't need a wall. Houses have walls.
James is losing his damn mind over here.
Prisons have walls. There's a fence around the backyard. Why can we not agree that we need to secure the borders to our country?
I would interject to go first, but I'm afraid James would.
No, you go
throttle
right
me.
ahead. No, I'm going to go last because I need to calm the fuck down.
Nations, whether it's ours or others, the Roman Empire, the Chinese dynasties, that's a big one. Egypt. The,
All right,
the
we
Egyptian
get it. There's a
provinces.
bunch of dynasties.
There-
Go ahead.
There's a bunch of them. Yeah.
Because he gets down that fucking history wormhole. We'll be here all damn
I
night.
mean, we're not talking about building the Great Wall of China, okay?
Well,
We kinda are.
There are some folks out there who would go to that extreme, but my point is a nation is defined by its borders. Now, I'm no big fan. Lloyd's having trouble with his bourbon, I think.
You know, it's his first time.
It is. It
He's
is.
so cute when he drinks the straight bourbon.
One bourbon.
So yeah,
By the time he gets done with this podcast, he'll be either a fucking alcoholic. He'll be in rehab.
I will.
somewhere in about 3
I
months.
will. I will have done 40 years of drinking right here at this table.
right tonight. Yeah. So yeah, nations are defined by their borders. There has to be some way of governing who comes in and who gets to be this citizen. Now, there is an argument out there that, and it's based historically, that our Constitution isn't I mentioned this earlier, our Constitution isn't a granting of rights by a government. Our Constitution is an acknowledgement of those rights that are given to us by God. If that is the fact, he's going to have a fucking seizure.
He looked like Mr. Ed over there. Wilbur.
So, if
hurt a little bit.
if that's the case,
You're
then
making my face hurt with what your words are saying.
if that is the case, and we may argue that, but if that is the case, then the folks who are trying to come in, all these 10,000 Canadians who are trying to come into this country
That's
illegally,
not the border we're talking about.
one border's as good as the next.
I agree. Go ahead.
If all of these people trying to come in here, are they also not God's children? So that if any of these topics I'm maybe quote unquote on the fence about, it's
Oh,
kind
do
of
you
this
see what
one.
he did there?
Yeah, I did air quotes.
Oh, he's
On
on
the
the fence.
the
On
wall.
the fence.
He's on the wall about it.
He's on the
He
wall
didn't even
about.
realize he did that. Go ahead.
But at the same time, and one of the other topics we're going to talk about here is social welfare. Social welfare. When these folks come in, if we don't have a way of tracking them, then they, in some cases, end up on this welfare roll, and there's no way for us to adequately track that. That's been proven. Lloyd mentioned 50 years. In actuality, it goes back to the Mexican War.
He's correcting you is at the point. And he mentioned that, but I'm going to correct him and say the Mexican War.
You know where they went? Mexico.
Mexico.
the border defense, border security has been a challenge for every nation throughout history. The question is, how are we as Americans going to handle that? I have an answer. The United States Postal Service.
He is interviewing himself.
The United
How do you think that's a question? How do you think we should have
What do you think, Rich?
Well,
I have
here
an
we
answer.
go.
There are 3 of us in this room, and you're interviewing yourself.
Hey, I could do this show on my own, pals. If the United States Postal Service is the only government function that is detailed in the United States Constitution. We can't get rid of it without changing the Constitution. Why not put immigration offices in there?
You maverick.
Why not? We can't get rid of it.
All right.
They don't do their
We're
damn
both
job. That's why
silent
everybody
right now.
uses
All right.
FedEx and UPS.
Before you piss off every damn mail carrier, and you know what?
that gets back to the firearms debate too.
Those fuckers are armed. All right.
Crazy sons of bitches.
His name is ROOT.
Capital R.
Has nothing to do with Lloyd.
R-O-O-T.
Has not a damn thing to do with me.
ROOT.
So I'm going to take my
folks.
turn on this.
Really?
Yeah.
Do we have that much time?
So I think there's 2 different. Sadly, in this topic, there's 2 different things: border security and the wall. All right. Since our current administration has taken over, the wall has become an issue. That before we never mentioned the wall. That started in 2015 when the candidates started running in the election. The term "the wall." I don't need your naysaying over there, Lloyd.
It does predate it a bit.
But still, border security has been an issue for a long time, and I don't think anybody will belabor that. And yes, illegal immigration is a problem. Now, the statistics that I read and the stuff that I've researched said that since we have tightened down on border security, immigration's actually become more of a problem. Because when we were kids, we're all about 50 years old, when we were kids, during farming season, in harvesting season, that's when the Hispanic folks came up from Mexico to make their money, and guess what they did? They went the fuck home after that season was over. Nowadays, the borders are so tight, they never fucking leave. They wire the money back and they stay here. Then all of a sudden now we have a problem because now they're in the school system. Now they're having children. Now they are in the hospitals. Now they are dealing with the infrastructure that is now being taxied by all the overload. Taxied by all the overload. So that has become a problem. How do we fix that? When you hear about the wall, in my mind, when we're talking about politics, that was a candidate speaking about that wall. And when he spoke about it, it was to be paid for by another country.
Mexico.
And now all of a sudden it's been a 180 and we're paying for it. And now there has been a government shutdown and it's become a political stump point.
It's a
No,
pawn.
It's my turn, Lloyd. Put your fucking finger down. So the thing of it is, this is how I solve this.
Uh-oh.
All right? I'm fixing the world
here's-
problem.
We got a solution.
Dun, 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 the
Dun, dun,
solution.
dun.
Then make a path to citizenship attainable. Right now, the one that is there is not. It takes far too much money and far too much time, and they're exploiting the immigrants that are trying to do it the right way.
Amen. Amen.
Because I know immigrants personally. I lived in Arizona for 5 years, and I met Hispanic folk that were trying to do it the right way. And because of money and time, they couldn't.
And it's not only the Hispanic community.
Right, you're right. And I knew somebody from Venezuela that was going to Brown University and could not get citizenship.
That's still the Hispanic community, but go ahead.
Still going to Brown. We're not talking about illegal immigrants that are being, mules for drug industry. We're talking about people that went to fucking Brown. Nobody in this room went to Brown.
James knows all about going to Brown.
Yeah, he does know about going to Brown.
Anyway, but she literally went to Brown to study law and could not continue because she could not get her citizenship. I will tell you what, if you meet somebody and you make this a personal issue, it changes everything.
It does. And I see. Wait a minute. I'm going to give Lloyd a chance because he just about broke his damn finger wagging it at
I'm
me.
not done yet. If we put a position,
If we wait for you to be done, you'll never be done,
He just
bro.
want me to talk.
all right, fucker, I ain't interrupted you but about 3 times tonight. But if we give a path to citizenship and folks choose not to take it, all right, that's fine. Because honestly, if you're talking
could do that
about
at the
getting rid
Postal
of
Service.
and deporting people that we don't need here, I got a whole fucking list at the Franklin County Regional Jail that we don't need here.
Preach.
All right, I'm sorry if you think that only the brown people that come over the Mexican border are a problem. You ain't been to fucking Franklin County, Kentucky,
Oh, no.
or any other damn county in Kentucky.
I think nobody's denying that.
Because if you're talking about drugs and you're talking about trafficking,
Oh, yeah.
you're talking about
yeah.
all the
Oh, yeah.
white trash is the biggest
Oh, yeah.
problem we have in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And
bar none.
and we
yeah.
got to talk about criminal justice now.
Oh, yeah.
Right, that's
Yeah.
right.
And
So
another problem.
if you give them a path of citizenship that is attainable, don't make it monetarily based. Don't make them have to pay to get through the fucking system. That's exploiting those folks. You're not giving them a mechanism in which to earn money legally, but yet you're asking them to pay to get through the fucking system.
And it's thousands of dollars.
Oh, no, it's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And you have to obtain a lawyer to
Right.
work on your behalf. I have a lawyer for other stuff. It's amazing how much they exploit your money. And I have 2 jobs. We have not presented an opportunity for them to get citizenship the right way. And that is on us. If we do that and they choose not to, then we can get their asses out of here. But until we do that, the burden is on us, not them.
I think, though, if our first order of business is to secure the border, and then we can worry about that path to citizenship.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think that a wall will secure the border?
Along
Because
with other
what I
measures,
know about Mexicans, they're fucking diggers.
along with other measures, yes.
But they dig. El Chapo just got convicted.
And and this goes back to George W. Bush, because they were talking about building a wall then, and it never got built.
Goes
And
back
it
to Reagan.
probably goes
really.
farther back to that.
In 8 years of Reagan and 8 years of Bush, they've never built the fucking wall.
Because it's a political pawn.
Yeah.
Right. It's all, and that's what it is today.
And I don't know what you're talking about, the security being so tight that people can't leave. When we go into Canada, they're all concerned about us going into Canada. They're not really concerned about us coming back to the United States.
I've got a real world example of people being afraid to leave. I work with a gentleman. He's from India.
And see, may I interject something?
Doesn't matter.
People, everybody that talks about border security talks about Mexico.
Right.
Folks, there are a lot of folks in this country that are not legal, that are from different countries other than Mexico.
And there are people who come to our country legally, trying to do it the right way, but fall victim to the same bullshit that we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Go to a 7-Eleven.
That's not even that. I'm talking about a highly skilled.
Yes.
This guy.
He's drawing down $70 grand a year.
Easily. And yeah, I'm an IT guy. That's no
Secret.
secret.
That was the word he was looking for.
Yes,
secret.
it was.
God love him.
To the rest of the folks that are listening here, one of my coworkers is one of the most brilliant database guys that I have ever known, and he went through a 6-month process. James is trying to top me off with a 101, and I have to drive home, so no.
Lloyd's looking for a bedmate.
Hey, he ain't wearing no scarf.
He can borrow one of my scarves.
I need a scarf.
Who am I kidding? The one scarf I have. It's not been washed, ever.
ever.
I've had it like 22 years, never been washed.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a comforter at the microtel.
Crusty.
It sticks to the walls, but I can say that about Alex. I know his scarf's been washed.
Oh, because you. Anyway, go ahead. So you're talking about the programmer.
Right. And I can extrapolate this out to the larger picture. The highly skilled legal immigrants who are coming here just to make a better life.
And
for
when you're saying
themselves.
legal, you're talking about green card.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Not even that though. They come in here with an H-1B visa.
Yeah.
And this gentleman spent 6 months in the renewal process for that visa. He had a family need to go back to India, and his lawyer said, "Bro, I don't
You
think
go
it's
back,
a
you
good
ain't coming
idea.
back."
You ain't coming home." So this
This is somebody that has means,
absolutely.
and that's somebody that we really want to keep here,
Absolutely.
because for all the.
And-
That's absolutely my point. Is you've got somebody that is a vested member of society that is towing the line, that not only is not committing crimes, but is giving back to government, the very government that suppresses him from going home.
I'm even going to separate it from that, because I work in a sector, I guess we can say, that has a dramatic impact on young people.
Absolutely, yes.
And this guy assists in the effort of helping the high schoolers get into the universities, and assist the folks in the universities to progress in their studies and become, the engineers and the doctors and the poets or whatever the fuck. But I would wager that there are far more of those people that are caught up in this political fucking drama that we've had going on for 60 years
Yes.
than any poor Mexican farmer who is going to be caught up in the current administration's wall drama. What's the greater loss there? A few dollars in welfare because some migrant crosses the border on a boat because, walls don't float very well. Or these highly skilled people who are actually contributing to this American dream.
And not to belabor the point that the folks that are coming across in the boat are still contributing because they're doing jobs that we may or may not want to do.
Well,
And they are again living in I said Mexico.
you were in Mexico.
It was in Mexico.
Arizona is like little Mexico. I ain't gonna lie to you.
But
But but when I moved out there, I had a very negative opinion of Hispanic folk. When I came back, I had a very negative opinion
About white
of
people.
American Indians and a very good opinion of Mexican folk. Because I saw people that had a great basis in family,
Faith.
in work ethic, and in faith.
Absolutely.
And you know what? If you're talking about the American dream, that's what you would associate with American and their dream is faith, family, and work ethic.
And there are people right here in God's own Kentucky, white boys just like the three of us, who will
Wait,
not.
but Lloyd's white? I thought he was a Milano.
He may well be.
Well-
He may be a Melungeon. I don't know.
Melungeon. Oh, is that some sort of ancient fish?
Well, you see, I got this history knowledge, and
All right, so we have went into this a lot. Lloyd, he about
Again,
broke his finger
he
earlier
did.
with me.
He did.
Again, I still say secure the border. Stop making it such a huge issue.
Are these
Just
stump
do it.
points?
Just do it.
But-
These are
Just
stump
do
points
it. But-
because it becomes individualized. You know, granted, yes, I was out in Arizona and I met a lot of great Hispanic folks that were trying to get through the right way. And I also saw cartel. I saw cartel moving drugs through the Arizona border. I also work with Border Patrol in the state of Arizona
those poor bastards.
and dealing with giving them equipment to try to keep them caught up. And guess what? They were never caught up. They were always behind. Of
course.
Because the monies that the drug cartel had to offer had nothing to comparatively to the Arizona state government.
Right.
I saw both sides.
Right.
But you know what? We've got just as many bad white people muling drugs and all that sort of stuff. The cartel is absolutely heinous and they're bad people. But no worse than the white people that are doing the exact same things within our borders. So I think they get an undue heinous reputation because it's easy. Nobody's talking about the Indians. Nobody's talking about the Canadians. Nobody's talking about the British that are coming over.
Damn redcoats.
Nobody's talking about them because you know what? The Mexicans are easy because they're poor and they don't have a voice
Well,
and they're corrupt.
I would say, and God, I feel like Kanye. I think both of us are taking on a Kanye role here. We got to let this man speak for a second. But
All right, he's new,
but
he's
not
got to
yet.
earn his fucking
Yeah,
chops.
there he is.
He's
I
got
get
to earn his chops. If he don't want to show up to the dance, I ain't fucking dancing.
I'm just sitting here drinking a drink and eating some popcorn. I want to see what's going to happen on that side
You
of
know
the
what?
room.
If he had a scarf, he'd be Alex.
he would.
Yes, I would. Be.
Although,
Although Alex would have been chiming in right now.
yeah, he would.
You know,
And-
I think
Lloyd, you ain't
all
nearly
are-
as pretty as Alex. I
Well,
just got to say it.
I forgot my scarf too. I hate that.
You may want to move to this side of the table. He gets a little handsy about this time of night.
Again, I mean, you all are talking a lot about immigration issues. This issue is border security.
All right, so what are we doing with the Canadian border? Oh, that's right. We don't care.
Well, but
We don't care. How many miles do we have compared to the Canadian border as opposed to the Mexican border?
More, I'm sure.
You think?
you're
Oh.
chasing a red herring, James. You're
Geography.
chasing a red herring there. I want to know what the difference is.
Between the two borders?
Yeah.
No. Between
I said yeah.
between building a wall and immigration. What is the difference that you appear to be? And I may well be wrong, but what's the difference between those two? Because it appears to me you're drawing a pretty hard line.
Well, you're talking about path to citizenship. The legal,
Would you agree with that?
The legal. Oh, yeah, I do agree with that.
Okay.
I agree that it's cumbersome. It's too expensive. It's not clear. It's
We have
you know,
found a point of agreement.
Yeah.
Guess what? We have not done anything similar to what the parties have done yet. They
Because-
have not
but
found
that-
a common ground.
because
that-
the parties are one and the same.
But that does not mean that we need border patrols and walls to make sure that we know who is coming in and out.
You're
Well,
saying we
like-
don't need it, or you do need
We
it?
do. I mean, we do need
Language
that.
problems.
Okay.
Yeah, language
problems.
He's had Wild Turkey 101. It's his first. Have you ever had Wild Turkey 101?
I never have.
We
Get ready.
noticed.
Settle up.
The night is young.
We're seasoned veterans.
The night is young.
We play hurt.
The night is young.
We told a lot.
and he's cleaning the table.
So Lloyd was right in the middle of a point, and we paused, and he just cleaned the table and didn't say a word. He just looked at us going, and I'm done.
I'm out.
All right, and for me to sum my point up, and what I'm hearing is we have some common ground here. I don't know that a physical wall stops anything. I really don't. I remember watching the video of immigrants trying to crawl across the Arizona border, the heat-sensitive video that they've gotten from surveillance equipment that we bought them. Folks, these folks, this is their life. And if you put up a wall, they're going to figure out a way around it. They're going to figure out a way over it or under it. They're going to figure out a way because that's all they have. And we don't understand that as Americans because we've never been faced that one time in our fucking life that is all we know.
I think historically we should. I think that
In our 50 years, we've never had to.
No, I disagree with that. In my 50 years,
How many fences you climbed in 50 years?
a few.
A 4 foot tall chain length?
No,
I'm not talking about military. I'm just saying.
no.
yeah.
I'm talking about getting out of junkyards, but that's another
Oh,
matter.
that's a personal
But-
demon he's
but
trying to exercise.
It's not about the poor Mexican folks, right? It's really about how a lot of this stuff is portrayed to us that stokes the kinds of emotions that we're hearing here.
Right.
Okay,
It's all about the Mexicans. No, it's not.
No,
it's
it's
about
not.
immigration.
and
that's a world as opposed to us.
I can promise you that those Mexicans can swim as well as them Cubans can, because 3 words for you: Mario boat lift. Cuban.
He says things like this, and nobody else knows what he's talking about.
but
Mario's boat lift. It sounds like something over on the.
It was probably the Mario
Clays
boat
Ferry
lift.
Bridge.
Yeah,
It's like, come on over to Mario's boat lift.
Was that an
and the
episode
Clays
of
Ferry Bridge is what, 30 minutes from Harlan, right? Isn't that how it works?
what, was that an episode of Saved by the Bell?
But I mean,
Mario Van Peebles. No, that's a different guy.
No, it's another guy.
Mario Lopez.
Lopez.
this dates back to the Carter administration.
Oh, God, we're going to history.
It's the same brown people, James. These brown people just happen to come from Cuba. It's the same immigration debate, Lloyd, but we're talking about wet foot, dry foot in Miami, not El Paso.
And I think what you're saying, and I would agree with what you're saying, is put up a wall, they'll figure out another way.
They're going to swim. They're going to do
And
something.
here's the thing: is if we're putting up that much money, and that much time and that much effort for a wall, they're going to figure out another way.
Oh, I got an 1820.
No, stop it.
1830?
No, but
I can talk about 1850.
we're not. It's not an auction, fucker.
What you talking about, Willis?
But all right, and to round this one up.
Uh-oh.
All right.
James has said he's had enough.
Well, no, I'm a moderator. That means I say my point and y'all hush.
Yeah, exactly.
Mostly
That means
because
he
we're in his house, he can kick us the fuck out.
That means he gets the last word, and then we're going to move on to something else, people.
Wild turkey's about gone. Lloyd, shut the fuck up.
Wild turkey.
Or go get more wild chicken. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, I think what I've seen in this conversation has been more similarities than we have been apart. To create a line of citizenship that is not arduous, yes, you have to be deliberate, but you don't have to be rich, and you don't have to
Right.
be over here a year and a half, 2, 4, 5 years to do it. Whether it be Britain, Ireland, Cuba, or Mexico,
Now it's a geography quiz.
or Canada,
India.
India.
Jamaican,
Albanians.
Wait a minute, who we're kidding? Jamaicans need more time because
South Africans.
they're.
Well, why do they want to leave, though?
Oh no.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I think what we're saying is, correct me if I'm wrong,
Oh, I will.
a
Not that you'll hear me.
more efficient path to citizenship being a background check. Have you been a good steward of our laws and regulations while you've been here?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a record, and then give them a good path to get citizenship because we want them.
And
Because the people I know in Frankfurt, we don't want them. We got them. We can't do nothing with them. We need the other people to balance those folks out.
I would also say you mentioned the process takes so long, and it does.
And it's the money.
The money's the real problem. I would have no issue if my buddy, the guy that the Indian fellow that I work with, had to establish whether it is a character reference, a ability to contribute something over a given period of time. But
Just some legitimate path.
right, and his willingness to be part of this American experiment.
Right.
Right. I don't.
I would love for the test that we give to immigrants, that every politician that runs for president would have to pass.
That's a good idea.
Because I don't think that we
No.
would have nearly the field that we have on either side that could pass that test to what they have to pass to be a citizen.
I would argue, and this is, I'm kind of iffy about this because of the whole poll tax history that we have here in this country.
Of course.
But
We don't know what that means.
but if
I know what it means.
if you're going to vote, you should be able to pass that test.
I think it's a different topic, but I'm not going to disagree with that.
Right. I mean, how in the fuck can you vote on state legislature, your state house, your state senate, your governor, and not know what the fucking three branches mean?
It's funny that Lloyd and I, these many years, have been on opposite sides of the spectrum, and we have gotten into heated discussions.
Yep.
To the point to where one of us or both of us walk the fuck away.
Yep.
And at one point, I looked at him and goes, "You know why I vote? Is to cancel your ass out."
That's right.
And
And
he
you know
said,
why I
I
vote
said
to
the
cancel
same
both
thing.
your
That's
asses.
right. Same thing.
So, all right, moving on.
All right, next topic. Oh Lord.
It doesn't get any easier. Welfare.
Oh, yeah.
It's simply welfare.
Welfare.
You throw it right at me.
No, I didn't. Lloyd did
Lloyd
because it's
Because
Lloyd.
he probably can't speak.
I've got a table to clean off over here.
That's the only damn thing that fucker's cleaned his whole life.
Hey, Lloyd.
We'd live together. We'd live together.
He knows.
I've said this before in other episodes of Slightly Uncomfortable. If the church does its job, we don't need the government to take care of that problem for us. That's where I'm at.
Oh, well, he brought religion into welfare.
No.
I don't disagree. I see where you're
Temple,
going.
mosque, whatever, the faith community. If the faith community takes care of their own,
The same thing could be said about foster care
yes.
and welfare. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And the fact
The fat cats that are sitting in their pews on Sunday morning that feel okay with what they're doing by tithing their 10%,
Right.
if they step the fuck up,
then we don't have this problem. And whenever you turn over taking care of individuals to the federal government, you're going to get people killed, murdered, abused, and that's exactly what we
or
have.
people making bank on that shit.
That too. And okay, Lloyd, I need you to go find a roll of duct tape for just a second.
Okay.
And wrap it around his head because I think
about
his
a
head's
scarf?
about to explode.
What about a scarf?
Just not one of Alex's.
Okay. All right.
That seems kinky. And I don't like where this is going.
I'm not doing that. I'm out.
Okay, yeah. So,
All right, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Go.
3
And
minutes.
I will not interrupt.
Bullshit.
Go.
All right, going. When we give government the
251.
shut the fuck up. When we give government the power to control people, and that's really what welfare is. That welfare check that folks get at the beginning or end of the month, it's not enough for them to escape it. That is a subsistence kind of living. He got close. He tried. and there's no way to escape it. The folks on the welfare, because James loves it when I put "the" in front of things.
The basketball.
The basketball.
The football.
That boy plays the basketball.
So
It's of the devil.
these folks.
Mama
get
says.
housing.
Mama says.
These folks get the WIC, right? The
WIC.
right?
The WIC.
The basketball.
Is that W-I-C-K, the WIC?
More commonly known as the food stamps.
Yeah.
And they get child care, but none of those dollar figures is enough to allow them to escape that world. And now, in the early 1800s, we used to call that a plantation. And I'm not so sure it's any different now, although it's not race specific. It's these poor folks who have found themselves in this situation. They have applied for this need, and then generations later, the grandparents, or the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, know nothing else. Some escape. That's a nice ding, by the way.
Ding! Has it been 3 minutes already?
That's the egg timer going off.
Some folks do escape, and we herald that victory for them. But the vast majority don't escape, and they don't know anything different. And
Lloyd,
I'm done.
you go.
Was that my timer premature over
It
here?
was. I'm sure it never happens to you.
I'm going to leave
I'm
that
sure.
alone.
I'm sure. I'm gonna agree with Root about.
What?
What?
I'm gonna agree with
That's
him.
never happened on this show ever.
I'm gonna agree with him about the fact that whatever the people are getting on welfare is barely enough for them to survive. I mean, I don't think anybody's getting rich off of their welfare. You know, does welfare exist like it used to? I mean, is there not a means test that where people are forced to go back to work after a certain time, or does it still exist like it used to? I mean, are people just like, well, I've signed up for it and this is the way it's going to be the rest of my life? Is it pretty much that way still?
I think it was the Clinton administration that actually put a go back to work kind of clause in that.
You know, I would agree with that. I think it still exists, although a different system. And anytime you create a system, people will understand a way to get around that system, whatever that system may be.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what we have now. It's not
Yep.
the same as it was 20 years ago.
Right.
Absolutely not. But I think there's a new system that has developed,
Right.
and there have been new ways of getting around it.
Yeah, I don't think that it's the only thing that people know either. I think most people on welfare are actually intelligent and understand how to work the system. They know how much money can I make, what's the cap of money that I can make and still get my benefits. You know, it seems like they're more of an expert at filling out government forms than anybody else is. Like they know exactly, I've got to go sign up at this time. I've got to make sure I only have this much income so that I keep my benefits. They actually show a lot of intelligence in staying on the welfare. Welfare.
All right.
I've started a trend.
I will agree 100% with what you just said. I will. But I can't disagree with it. I really can't. Because I think they are better at what they do than anyone else can be. If something were to happen to us, heaven forbid, and one of us had to go on the welfare. Because
it's a
It works
trend.
every
It
time.
does. It
the
does.
only reason we do that is to make you feel better, Rick. If one of us had to go on the welfare, we would have no fucking idea of how to go about it, and and we would just barely scrape by, and it would benefit us, but not to the degree that it does other folks that are used to being in that environment.
And that's exactly the point that I was making. Generationally, it's handed down from grandparents to parents to children how to work the system.
Agreed.
And that is the generational tie that keeps these people in that mess.
Agreed.
There are so few efforts, because there are strong efforts to help people escape this, but they're just too few and far between.
Well, anytime that you have, and I'm not going to get into the living wage or the or minimum wage or anything like that, but if you have,
$350 an hour or nothing.
but if you have a single mother that has 2 children, and the dude left, and she could go to work at Burger King making $5.25 an hour, or $7 an hour, whatever the case
Whatever
may
it
be.
is.
But yet the daycare for her 2 children exceed that. She is not going to work.
No.
Right.
So the system that she has been accustomed to is not leaning to a path that she can get away from it.
Exactly.
Would we all agree with that?
Yes,
Absolutely. My suggestion for a solution to that.
You can't do suggestion yet. Yeah, it's Lloyd's turn. I have to do my point first. It's about turns. That's what we stuck.
It's about taking the turn.
The turn. Okay.
take the
All right.
turn.
All right. All right.
We're gonna have to do. There was a board game at some point to where you handed the turn off, and it was a bird. It was a bird that was called the
Okay,
turn.
it's your turn.
We need to work
Your
with this
turn.
on our podcast.
We're going to have to pass around the duct
We're gonna-
tape.
we're
So,
gonna have to
Lloyd,
play
hand me that
geese.
duct tape real quick.
It's a game. They're demons. Please
But
continue, Lloyd.
you know, I think both of you all make good points. So it's
You're welcome.
Yes, you're welcome.
Of course
But
we
again,
do. You know, we're kind of the skill positions.
It's kind of like I say if
In the industry is what we are.
That's
yeah,
right.
in the-
That's right.
it's kind of like I say when you know, people. I say if somebody, one of my loved ones, went to jail, it's like I would have no idea where to start to go. Who do I call? What do I do? And I know a lot of people. They're like, oh yeah, they're going to go see Judge Brown, and then tomorrow morning they're going to let him out on bail. Blah blah blah. It's like you know this, don't you?
Yeah,
it's like I would have no idea,
It's system knowledge.
but they know.
System
they know
knowledge.
it.
Yeah.
They know it. So
My solution and my point in this.
So you get to give yours first.
No, because I have not said anything, fucker. I'm not. I have let both you and you.
he has waited the turn.
I have waited the turn, and I'm going to say I agree with you and you. I don't have anything I can refute of anything that you said.
Of course not, because we're right.
I get that all the time.
I do too. I do too. It's
Hey, Lloyd, drink up.
It's a good place to be.
it is.
It is.
Here's my. There's been a system established to help folks that can't help themselves. That's what it is.
There was a federal government system after the church system collapsed.
Anyway, so there, and Lloyd is cleaning off the table again.
Again.
That's the only thing I've known him 25 years. That's the only thing I've fucking seen him clean his whole damn life.
I'm bringing another table from the house next time.
Because you need it clean.
I need it clean.
Yeah, just put it on his side. So, here's my thought on welfare. It's really easy. Drug test them and then pay them. If they can pass the fucking drug test, I don't have as much of a problem with them getting government benefits. If they can't, I have a huge problem. Now we're going to get into drugs later on. What's legal, what's
That's
not.
another topic.
But I'm saying, as it stands now, if you're participating in illegal drugs, you don't get a government check. Clean your ass up, come back next week.
Oh, we're going to get into that later.
We will.
Oh, yeah.
But as it stands now, we've got to find some way, because disability ain't it.
No.
Because the way we determine disability is far different
Yes.
than it should be. Are you making noise with your hands?
No.
I think you are, dude.
No, surely not.
Show us your hands. Show us.
He
Oh,
is a
my
fidgeter.
goodness.
He is a
He
fidgeter.
is. He is.
You're on probation.
All right.
back
Yeah.
on probation.
I'm going to go back to wiping the table off.
So, and here's my thing:
Get your
is
winch.
I went to
Hey.
I went to Walmart tonight with my children. If you ever want to get mad, just go to fucking Walmart, because there are women and men in Walmart that are using the scooters, the rascals, if you will, because they're fat.
Yep.
Those bitches ain't disabled; they're fat.
Yeah, you might want to look at their knees, but there's a
Don't
reason
care.
their knees hurt.
That's self-indulgent.
Yeah.
All right. That's self-induced disability. I'm okay with that. That's a whole different podcast. But I'm saying, if you can pass the drug test, I'll give you a check. That will all of a sudden either make that dynamic, that type of people. You know what? I'm down on my luck. I don't know a way out. I'm not going to put this money toward drugs, because I want to get out of this system, this circular, self-defeating prophecy. That's what I need to get out of. And if they do that, I'm okay with them because that's a means to an end. That gets them out of a current situation. But if all we're doing is feeding the pig as it goes around,
Right.
I'm not okay with that.
Right.
I got a corollary for. I love your idea. I got a corollary for it. A corollary is something slightly different.
I know what that means,
Okay.
fucker.
using them big fancy words.
You know, he looks at me sometimes with this blind look. And now
You know,
he's-
you know what I've always done?
It's the wild turkey.
If you're going to spill something, spill the
You
ancient.
know what I've always
okay?
done is I have mastered the look of bewilderment.
Yes, you have.
And then and what I love is I went through 2 marriages like this. And when I do that look, they will over-explain things. I'm like,
That's
and
about
then the
it.
whole time
was
I'm
it.
going, oh, those fuckers don't even have any idea I know what they're talking about. So please continue
All right.
over-explaining stuff.
So the corollary there would be, instead of the government giving the check,
Libertarian.
providing exactly, that's the position that's where I'm coming from. And
I got that.
Instead of the government writing that check, come up with an incentive for other community groups to provide not only the necessaries for this family, right? The clothing allowance, the daycare allowance, that kind of thing, but also training to help these people make the escape.
I think those mechanisms,
But because
they're already in
Burger
place.
King is not a career,
They're already in place. I mean, I think,
don't think they are.
those training things are already in place.
but they suck.
Well, all right, yeah, it could
They
be
need
improved.
to.
Everything
need to
could be
come.
improved.
They need to come from the private sector, not the public sector. The public sector is what put these people in this mess. In
But
the
if we're
beginning.
talking about privatizing or public,
We're
that's
always
a whole
talking
different
about
one. That's a whole
privatizing.
different one. But welfare itself, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will.
You probably are.
We all agree it is needed.
To a degree, the
No,
question,
no,
the
yes or
question
no?
is who's providing
No,
it.
it's yes or no.
I
Yes or
can't-
no. Is it needed?
I can't answer that question without knowing who's providing it.
Libertarian. Is it needed?
I believe it is.
I believe it is too. Now, what we need to do is come up with a better way in which it's provided.
Privatize it.
All right? Privatize it.
Okay.
Privatize it. I'm saying drug test it.
Okay.
Because to me, in our community, opioids and drug addiction is the one primary concern with everything that we do. And if you say, all right, if you're going to get these benefits, you're going to have to clean your ass up.
And here's how.
Right, exactly.
I'm really
Providing-
surprised as a card-carrying liberal that he suggests drug tests as a means test.
Absolutely.
But I'm probably going to shock you. This is a great segue to get into the next topic, and let's just push I don't know what we call it, but illegal drugs.
You want to do drugs next?
Well,
Because-
it wasn't on my list, but yeah, we can do that because Root said it. And
well,
he
because-
gets his panties in the wad if we don't follow what he says.
drugs and criminal justice are kind of intertwined.
All right, moving on to legalization of drugs.
Okay.
And we can say marijuana or we can just say drugs.
Anything.
All right, let's just say drugs.
Okay.
Lloyd.
Words.
No, I was trying to figure out which one to throw it to. Because
Okay.
I'm like, I know what he's going to say. And in my mind, I'm going, oh.
Okay.
Lloyd.
This is going to be tough on the
He's looking
libertarian.
at his notes.
It's gonna be
Okay.
tough.
All right,
Okay.
let me just
It's
let
gonna
me
be
just
tough on
let
you.
me preface this. Lloyd has typewritten notes.
He does.
So
He does.
what Root has never done is make a fucking note one time.
Because I don't need notes. All of my
Oh.
positions are based on principle.
Because his is talent.
He is the talent.
No. You started this shit. It had never been uttered
He is the
before
talent.
your ass
The
showed
talent.
up to the basement.
The talent.
It had never been uttered.
Glad-
You started it. It's your dog. Feed it.
I'm glad I could bring this to the table. I really am. So,
I do kind of like it though.
okay, drugs first.
He's tickled himself.
I nailed that with dog feed it. I nailed it.
First-
I nailed it.
First of all, let's just get
Hey, he needs to get to his notes.
pot out of the way. Let's just legalize it. Let's just at this point, let's just
100%
legalize
agree,
pot. Let's
100%
just
agree.
legalize it.
Amen
In any
to the
way.
man.
Amen.
Yeah.
Governor,
That is
Bevan.
is a gift to the drug user. Pot, fine, whatever, no problem. Just like Colorado, make it government sold in some ways, tax it, fund a bunch of things, make it to where you can grow
Regulate
it yourself.
Yeah.
It's fine, whatever.
Dibs
okay?
on that one first.
All the other drugs.
What did you say?
I said dibs on that one first.
I thought he said dicks. I don't know what he meant by that, so I needed clarification.
Here, have another drink. I think that's what you need.
All right, I'm sorry, Lloyd. You're not drinking right now. Let me fill you up.
Here, let me clean off my table
You're
first.
going to get the ancient age.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Okay.
actually pretty decent.
Actually, I think really good.
Every other drug, why aren't we drug testing everybody randomly? Everyone.
Oh,
from
Lord. Oh,
from
oh.
the president
Oh, it's
to the state worker who's never drug tests to the potential Walmart employee that is drug test.
Why we got to nail Walmart? I mean, if you're going to
If
go
you-
me on drugs,
listen.
you need to work at fucking
Listen,
Walmart.
if we
that the
want
Walmart
to, if we
thing?
want to nip this problem in the bud, we need to drug test everyone. Anyone who is a drug user goes to rehab. Anybody that's not going to go to rehab goes to jail. Okay. We've got to get this drug problem under control. A friend of mine's daughter died a week or so ago. She was 23, beautiful young girl, been on opioids for about a year and overdosed. It's like, I know it's a big problem for libertarians, but I think it's at the point to where it's such a problem, and people are dying from this. We got to get it under control, and the way to do that is to check everybody.
Go.
Go.
the what the fuck was that?
Somebody stepped on a duck.
I turned my microphone
He
off.
stepped on a goose.
I
He's
said
a
on a-
goose stomper.
I sit on a frog.
He said on a frog. Yeah. A question for Lloyd.
Okay.
Who is
Lloyd, be careful. He's setting you up right here.
it is a bit of a setup.
It's about fishing.
Because
Okay.
I already know the answer. Who is testing these people? Who is going to test? Who's going to make me piss in a cup?
The federal government.
Law enforcement. Federal
Which
government.
is
Federal
which is
government.
local, which is
Sure.
state
Sure.
or local police.
Sure.
So
The same ones that are having all these problems because of criminals.
that's my fault. So, okay, all right. I'm not going to continue to try and bait you.
Is it my turn?
No, it's not.
Because sometimes Root gets angry,
And I
we
need a minute.
to step in.
I need a minute.
We need to
No,
step in.
and I'm not angry. I'm not angry, but it's the same argument that I've posited here a couple of times. What role do we want the government to have in our lives? If I want to smoke a joint and that's not something that I've done.
That's
You
fine.
want to?
That's fine.
If-
I got some stuff.
That's fine.
if I want to shoot up with heroin.
I don't
no,
have any of that.
No, that's not fine.
But if I'm doing so in my own house and it's on me and my family, then
And when you find out that something in that heroin is not correct and it kills you, and your family loses you,
I don't need you hearing me bitching. Don't you
Amen.
bitch to me when you die.
and I've got a little bit of some personal experience there. It is absolutely crushing for everyone involved when someone meets their end because of the needle. I've personally felt it. I have witnessed families struggle through it. I've witnessed children struggle through it, and it is absolutely I'm at a loss for words to describe the impact that those kinds of tragedies have on people. But even with all of that pain and anguish, personally, I don't want the feds to make that kind of dictate, because if they make that kind of dictate, they don't know where to stop. It's heroin today, it's marijuana tomorrow,
Coffee.
it's aspirin, it's coffee, it's alcohol.
All right, so
And they've already tried that bullshit with alcohol.
All right.
The whole prohibition era. Prohibition does not work.
let's get a finite place of where we are. All right. So what are you saying, Lloyd?
what am I saying concerning what?
Give me a 3-sentence perspective on legalization of drugs, marijuana, whatever the case may be.
Well, I still say we should completely legalize marijuana, all the other drugs. I don't find it fair that a person that is trying to get a low-level job is eliminated from getting that job because they failed a drug test, but yet a teacher and a rock star and an athlete doesn't have to
State
a state employee doesn't have to go through the same thing. I don't think that's fair.
All right, I think that's a different perspective than what we've heard so far.
It is.
Is what you're saying is that a state government employee, a teacher, a rock star should be relegated to the same scrutiny
Absolutely.
of a factory worker
Absolutely.
or somebody like that. That's a different perspective because what I heard you say earlier was everybody needs to be.
Sure.
But
But that's a different perspective. It's like if these people are, then you should be too.
that and my question still stands: who controls that test?
Well, I think the answer, and it's not my answer. I think it has to be the answer from that perspective, is the federal government.
And I would push back on that 10,000%.
What if the churches were doing it?
No, fuck no, fuck no, fuck, because those fuckers were smoking weed with me. I know it. I went to school with them. Fuck no.
James and I both know one of them characters.
Churches. You put the churches in charge of anything, shit's gonna get fucked up.
I would
Please
say
reference my religion podcast.
Yes, I would say that the churches have a role, but
No.
wait for it. Oh my God, he's having a seizure over here again.
Churches have no role in any of this
If
because they're fucked up.
if a faith community, let's call it a mosque, let's call it an Indian temple. He's breaking the shit over here.
He's breaking equipment. So
Check your mic. I think you may have turned it off and you pushed it in.
It's all
Okay.
thunder.
Just
It's all
checking.
so if the
You
church
quit saying silly shit, I wouldn't be doing it. Jesus.
I think the churches have a role, or the faith community has a role in helping people over addiction.
okay.
If because there are plenty of folks out there who love that needle in their arm. They're going to kill themselves.
Right.
It's tragic, it's heinous, and the impact on the families is immeasurable, but it doesn't change the fact that some people are going to kill themselves with that needle. And some people are going to jump off a bridge, some people are going to try and start a shotgun.
Yep.
They're dead enders, and if we allow the government at any level to impose some dictate on folks, these people are still going to kill themselves. It's not, the government cannot fix a social issue, ever. It's on us, the individuals, to fix these issues. And sometimes we just can't. That's just the world we live in, fellas. People are assholes and people are going to kill themselves. It's brutal, but it's life.
My turn.
You sure? Can you say 3 words without going, "Wah!"
Well, you all made me angry.
Do you need a timer?
like 3 or 4 times.
Do you need a timer?
Well, I haven't put the timer on you two sorry sons of bitches. Drugs.
For 'em. Oh, sorry.
Man, this is a fence issue with me.
You mean a wall issue?
No,
I think you said a wall
I
issue.
think you said a wall.
because of how I was brought up and how I've evolved. For me, the fact that we have so many people in our penal system that are associated with minor drug charges is asinine. If you're looking at the overpopulation of our penal system, if we could just remove the marijuana and the lower drug charges, my God, that position changes.
Amen.
And that is a huge relief to the federal government and what we pay in those penitentiaries, right?
And it allows more heinous crimes and more political crimes. Those white collar people, it opens up beds that they
It frees up
desperately
room.
need.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, if you're talking about marijuana legalization, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I think we're all in agreement on that.
yeah. I
Absolutely.
mean, whether it's recreational, whether it is medicinal, whatever,
Growing,
Yeah, growing.
because we're from fucking Kentucky.
That's right.
And that's what we do is grow shit.
that's right.
And that shit grows here just
Better than
Easy.
anywhere else in the world.
yeah. I mean, it could easily turn us from being in the red to being in the black. Retirement system, whatever we have a problem with, it's fixed.
Fixed.
Assuming that the General Assembly doesn't pigeonhole it for some other god awful.
And he just sucked the
approach.
life out of the very moment.
Because
Anyway,
I don't trust them fuckers.
so
It's going to go straight into the teacher's pension.
right. And to hell with everybody else.
So I have no issue with that. But, you know, I talked to somebody about a year ago. And I'd always thought that legalization of marijuana was practical and permissible and made sense. And then that person said, why not all drugs? And I'm like, what? And I'll be honest with you, I never thought of it before because it was always a really defined line for me between marijuana and alcohol and then everything else. And in my life, I have seen alcohol kill people, kill families, ruin families, become an addiction that people can't walk away from. So how is that different than heroin, cocaine, opioids? How's that different?
Heroin is an opioid.
The fact that we legalize alcohol, but yet we say that cigarettes are okay, and they're the most addictive drug that I'm aware of. From what I've read, they're very addictive. Luckily, I've never tried them. I don't have to worry about that. We legalize cigarettes and alcohol, but yet we say that marijuana and everything else is bad. Really? If there's not a victim, is there a crime? That's my overall perspective in everything we're talking about. If there is somebody that wants to consume it and they don't victimize anybody else by their behavior, is it bad?
Or put anyone in danger
Right.
by their behavior.
That's victimized. It's easy. Do they hurt anyone else by what they do?
Or put them in danger because
That's hurting.
no, it's not. It's not because they're
Driving down the road, I'm hurting somebody potentially.
potentially.
Yeah.
That is putting them in danger. It's
Although
not
if
hurting
you're
them.
driving under the influence of alcohol, it's different than driving under the influence of marijuana because the marijuana guy is driving 20 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour lane and he's going, I am burning it up, fucker.
I'm going.
I am burning it up.
I'm going to the store to get some snacks.
I need an Oreo, a burrito, and a taco. I need something that ends in O is what I need.
Oreo, maybe.
I said Oreo, taco, burrito. You didn't listen.
No, why would I?
Love him. He's
But
just-
but I've got a dear friend. I've got a dear friend who lost a career in teaching in Texas because on social media of all places we were engaging in this argument. It started out a drunk driving argument, and then it turned into the victimless crime thing. And I really want to make this distinction between harm and potential for harm. And because I agree with you that both end up at the same place, but not everybody sees it that way. A victimless crime is dealing in one of these currently controlled substances. That is a transaction. Nobody gets hurt by that.
So are you advocating?
Who are you pointing to?
You.
Yeah, all right, wait a minute. Lloyd is
You.
pointing.
You.
And that doesn't play well in the podcast because
So-
he's a rookie.
No,
Is you Root or is you James?
it's James.
It's James.
All right,
So,
he leaned in too.
are
Yeah.
you-
Is you-
Oh, he's on it. He's on it.
Welcome, Wild Turkey.
Are you saying that you are for the legalization of all drugs just because we can't really control people's behavior or what?
I'm for the legalization of all drugs because, yes,
Okay. All right.
because in my mind, if we legalize something, and this may be me being big government, we can regulate it, we can tax it, and then we get benefit from it because it's happening regardless of whether we want it to or not.
Well, my
Well,
point
so
is,
is murder.
how does that
All right,
merge?
it's not your turn.
cut off his mic.
Yeah.
How does that merge with your statement that nobody should be able to get welfare benefits unless they're drug tested? Because that seems like two separate. That seems like you're
It's
you're
not.
you're saying
It's
one
not.
thing and then another.
It's not because if drugs are legal, they pass the test. It is
The
Just say-
test isn't administered.
because you know what?
Yeah, but-
Caffeine's a drug.
Sure, it
And,
is.
we don't test for caffeine.
Sure.
Because
Maybe
those
we
fuckers-
should.
Those fuckers that show up to the drug test If they've had a bunch of coffee that day, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
because
matter.
it's a legal fucking drug.
But
And
you're
I'm going to tell
dancing.
you what right now. Caffeine's as bad of a drug as anything you want to talk about. They're smoking cigarettes out in front of the fucking welfare line. That's a drug.
I'm just saying.
It's legal,
I'm just
and
saying.
they pass it.
You're
He's got-
saying that just the best thing we can do is legalize all the drugs, but let's make it a means test to get welfare.
No. Because if every drug is legalized, then there is no test because there's no reason to test them.
Okay.
Because
so
you know
it's
what
a
we're-
cart and a horse issue.
Right, because we're not testing for cigarettes. We're not testing for alcohol.
That's because nobody would pass the cigarette
No,
testers
right.
on welfare.
You know what?
Not in state government.
And that's a sad thing.
It is.
It is.
Because you know what? If you look at the prices
Well, there's
of
like
cigarettes right now,
$5-6 a pack, something like that.
and they're on fucking welfare,
Yeah.
I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
Because that's an addiction that they're taking money away from their food and their rent
Well, and-
and their everything else, and they're taking it from me.
Yeah, exactly. That's right, because that's where the money's coming from.
So
Root.
so if we, let's assume that we all have that issue, if we have a problem with that, what do we do about it? Do we ask government then to penalize these people on our behalf?
Well,
Or do we just choose not to associate with those people,
I think
not to
it's-
help them?
Well, I think it's a egg chicken thing. Is if we legalize drugs, then it's a whole different topic, right?
Okay.
If we don't legalize drugs, it's a whole different topic.
Well, but we've kind of conflated two of our
I
topics.
don't know
here.
what conflated means.
We've combined them with
Why don't you just use the word combined?
because conflated makes more sense in this case. So we've conflated, James. We've conflated.
It just doesn't seem like a good
Just
one.
shut up. We've conflated
Cauliflower.
legalizing drugs and the welfare discussion. If the,
We haven't.
No, we damn well sure have here.
I don't know what conflated still means. Oh my God! I don't
Look
know.
it the fuck up. Grab your phone. Look it up. If
Now I feel foolish. Words
that's a
hurt.
first.
Words
hurt. Yeah, I got something else that hurts.
Oh,
Yeah. It's a little passionate over here.
Those aren't pillows.
If we legalize all the drugs, then drug testing in the welfare system
That just
is
goes away,
moot.
'cause there's-
it's
yeah,
moot.
there's
You
no
know what
point.
we've done is we fixed something.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
legalize everything.
Yeah.
Let the dead enders kill themselves. Help the people who want to be helped.
Darwin's theory
But-
of evolution. Push the bitches out to
Winners!
the edge and let the prey consume them.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
I think we solved something.
Because you know what? If somebody smokes themselves to death,
Whose fault is it?
it's theirs.
It's theirs.
If somebody drinks themselves to death,
Whose fault is it?
It's theirs.
all right, then why is that different than if they smoke themselves to death with marijuana, or be it heroin, or be it whatever?
Yeah.
How is that anyone else's problem but their own?
Exactly. Well, them and, their
you know what?
families.
Being a libertarian,
That's-
I would think that you would say that, hey,
That's the
you know
perfect
what?
solution.
It is the perfect solution. We allow everything, we police nothing
Right.
unless it's behavior. If you drive drunk, if you drive under the influence, then we will police you.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're at your own demise.
Correct.
Your own choices to determine your path.
That's called a monarchist school of government. The most
Again,
minimum.
using words nobody fucking knows.
I was
other-
about to explain it.
Oh, thank you
For your
making up
Luddite
a
ass.
fucking term that we don't know and then explaining
Don't ever go against the talent. Okay.
There you go. Thank you, Lloyd. You are hired and off of probation.
Basically,
Oh well, James, don't you think?
basically what I mean to the you low-level knuckle dragging mouth breathers.
Minarchists are folks.
I
who,
don't need a thesaurus definition here. Did I say that right?
You know, you didn't. I think you meant.
Well, it's Floyd's
thesaurus.
fault. He brought the fucking wild
it's the
turkey.
screaming chicken.
He's
that
trying.
got you upset.
He's trying.
But it's the most minimum form of government necessary to meet whatever ends that the people want to meet. Is that police force, firefighting service, and nothing else?
But you know, here's the thing:
Maybe national defense?
It is firefighters and police would have to be prevalent no matter what the rules were. So
they wasn't in early America.
if we had to legalize drugs, then we have to we have to police the behavior,
Right.
not the reason,
Right.
but the behavior.
And
Because I can have a really bad day at work and go out and do whatever. You can't police bad day at work. What you can police is my behavior due to the bad day at work, or how I handled the bad day at work.
Right.
and that is as it should be.
Yeah.
You know, if
So we have come to an agreement.
We have solved a problem.
So
and
legalize
we're
it.
echoing Thomas Jefferson too. If it doesn't pick
If
my
I've
pocket
done
or break my
anything,
leg,
I
what
will
business
echo-
is it of mine?
I
We're
will
not-
echo some
you know,
Thomas Jefferson.
I-
TJ is my way.
I have known James for 25 years, and if it's anything that I know about him, he echoes Thomas Jefferson.
I do. TJ is my way.
Hey, Thomas Jefferson has a lot to do with Kentucky as we know it.
So, all right, moving on.
I think I just shut him down. Is that a
So
win? Is that
I
a
am
root
going.
win? I think it's
You
a
know
root
what? Here's
win.
the.
There are no wins here.
No. We actually all agree.
Get it?
Yeah,
Legalize the shit and police the behavior.
exactly.
If you can't be a good steward of what has been legalized, then you should suffer the ramifications.
Absolutely.
If you can be, no harm.
No harm. Yeah. You want to stick that needle in your arm at home, not hurt anybody, not put anybody at risk. Maybe your own family, but that's your own family's
I
problem.
had a cookie 3 weeks ago. Oh, I'm gonna tell you what that thing made.
Special cookie.
That thing made my weekend really good.
But you enjoyed that cookie and didn't put anybody at risk.
And you know what I didn't do is leave my damn house.
Right.
I enjoyed the cookie. I had an amazing time on the cookie, and I stayed the fuck home.
Right.
And now I'm looking for somebody to give me a cookie. Anybody knows anybody can give me a
You know,
James Reeves at Facebook. Anyway, moving on.
please send
Moving on.
cookies.
This is a big one, boys. I'm not going to back away from this one.
Probably going to be last.
I know it's a big one. Abortion.
Okay.
Now, you know, I would love to say that we're going to end the show on a positive note, but this is a tough one to end the show on.
This is tricky.
period.
This is tricky.
Because it's become more than what we grew up with it to be. I think our perspectives, because in our lifetime, in the 50 years that we've been around, in our lifetime, we have seen more progression in this movement, be it negative or positive, depending on your political stance or your religious stance, whatever it is. We have seen more movement on this than we've ever seen in any other 50 years. So I think this is a huge topic that cannot be taken lightly. Although we may have some lighthearted jabs in it here and there, it does not mean that we are not taking this as serious as it actually is.
Excellent.
Please don't
Absolutely.
think that it is.
Right.
So who would like to I'm not going to throw this one. Who would like to take this one to start off with?
I think we give it to Lloyd since he's the noob,
Rookie.
fresh off
So,
probation.
You got any more bourbon? Then take it, bitch.
I'm going to need some, I'm telling you, after this. So,
Have you finished your bourbon?
no, not yet.
All right, please drink. Take a sip and they'll feel better.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'll do it.
That's what I tell all the ladies. No, not anymore, darling. It's just you. I just need you to take a sip.
All right. I'm going to approach this in a little bit larger manner here.
Oh, he's going
On a little,
He's
being
going large.
on a little tangent here.
Tangent. Rabbit trail?
A
Maybe a rabbit
a
trail?
little bit.
A little bit.
I'm talking to the adults here. Okay, the adults.
Well,
Turn your mic off.
Just the adults.
James and I
Just
can
the
leave the
adults.
room.
We're out. I gotta go pee. I need me a cracker or something.
Yeah, this is probably a very non-conservative way of looking at this, so this could be a little shocking. So, some things in life are ugly. You know, when we talk about things like animal cruelty, the beef and the chicken that we consume, we like to say.
Wait, hold-
wait, no, listen.
What kind of chicken?
I've got a reason for
I'm
this.
sorry, the beef and the chicken.
The beef and the chicken. You know,
Right.
this probably goes more towards animal cruelty, but you know, listen to me. Listen.
You went from like abortion's not big enough.
Listen
Let's bring an animal cruelty.
Listen to me. The point is that some things in life are just ugly. Okay, you know, we like to think that every cow that we consume has just been able to graze freely on a open plain and has not been kept in a stockyard or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, some things in life are just ugly. You know, the conditions that they live in, the conditions that we treat chickens to get, the meat and everything. We don't want to pay $55 for a piece of hamburger, okay? A pound of hamburger, okay?
I'm just waiting on this
Okay,
to somehow
okay,
make it back.
okay.
The
No,
fact that
no.
we mentioned abortion and we've only talked about chicken and
Now,
ham.
listen.
Yeah.
Again, some things in life are ugly, and abortion is one of those things, okay?
Okay.
All right.
You know, some things are happen in the world that, like I say, they're just ugly, and I think abortion is one of them. I think that up to a certain point in the development of a fetus, that abortion is okay. I think we have to establish where that is. I mean, I don't believe that a fetus that is 2 weeks old is anything more than just cells and is not viable outside of a womb. At some point, it grows to the point to where it could survive outside the womb, and it should not be aborted at that point. But I think that line has to be drawn somewhere to where maybe early in the pregnancy it's okay, but I'm certainly not for any sort of late term abortion in any way. I mean, that's an ugly thing to think about, but I think that early on, if a mother decides that she just not the time for a baby, just cannot handle it, that's okay. And that's not really certainly not a conservative viewpoint. But I think that up to a certain point, I'm not determined where that point is. I think that abortion should be legal.
Rick. All right, number one. Thank you for that.
Yep. And we
I don't
we
know.
Okay,
That's a
listen.
whole
I'm going to preface this. I'm feeling the wild turkey, so I could not say that in a great manner.
No. Let me preface what he prefaced.
Oh, so now we're pre-prefacing prefaces.
Is the fact that he had this shit written down. That has nothing to do with wild turkey. That has everything to do with about him talking about chicken and beef and then babies. All right. So again, his name is Lloyd at slightlyuncomfortable.com. That is LLOYD at slightly. Please continue, Ruth.
Yeah, we don't own that domain. So
Not yet.
What we do now, hit us up at slightlyuncomfortable.com. Register and let us know what you think about this episode or others.
falling back to
so-
the
so
Okay, you don't have to agree with me on the chicken and beef thing.
No,
So
no,
you just
I-
don't worry about
I
that
ain't
part.
even touching your chicken or your beef, pal. That ain't happening. That
Put a
hardening.
scarf around it, he'll touch it.
Maybe. That's so long as you got some cute socks too. But harkening back to the religion podcast that I did, I can't help but be pro-life. I am 10,000% pro-life, but I don't think the government should get in the way of this. These decisions are heart-wrenching for the families involved. And I'm not just going to say it's about the women, because there's a dad, there's a father of this child in there somewhere. That father may have been the asshole that raped the woman. That father may be someone who wanted this child, but now we have two victims if the child is aborted,
Or two perpetrators.
or two perpetrators, depending on, yeah, because that shit happens too. The bottom line for me is the government has no business in these kinds of familial decisions. They don't. The abortion debate at its core is a heart problem. It's not a legal problem. It's not a biological problem.
A heart issue, not
Yeah.
a problem.
We're going to
Depends
disagree
on
on
which.
that term.
Well, it depends on which way they fall. If they agree with you, it's not a problem.
But-
if they don't agree with you, it is.
But the fact that the abortion debate has grown so wildly since whenever it started, it is a problem.
I think it's an issue.
We can disagree there.
I mean, it's terminology.
It's
semantics.
It is semantics at that point. Where we are today sickens me. New York State Legislature had
You know what? And we're trying not to make this
time specific.
right.
Right.
But it's a huge issue with what has happened recently.
Yes.
with New York State.
Yeah.
And my God, it's just
This is just Root speaking here, and
he went through third person.
Yeah.
Lloyd, just so you know,
I heard there was a discussion about this in one of the earlier podcasts.
He has you know what we don't do is I don't go, James thinks.
because
And Alex doesn't go, you know what Alex thinks, but Root always goes, well, Root says.
Who was the guy on Seinfeld that did that? There was a guy. Was it Jimmy? Jimmy really likes Elaine.
And also the maestro.
Yeah,
the maestro. Yeah,
The
yeah.
maestro. And neither of them were,
Well,
were
you know-
really fondly heralded characters.
No.
Much like Root.
and Root, much like the maestro or Jimmy, doesn't really give a shit because this is just where I'm at. Every single legislator in New York State, in Albany, who voted for this legislation are no different, in my book, than the great genocidal maniacs that we have read about in history. They have signed the death warrant for how many tens, thousands, hundreds of thousands of children. And Virginia's not too far from it. If it wasn't for the blackface scandal and God knows all the other bullshit that's going on in Virginia right now, they would have passed the same legislation.
So, yeah, I would agree with that.
It's
It rarely will I ever say that after a Root rant.
it's flat out barbarism. I mean,
But if we're going back to the core of this issue, with the exception to being what we have turned it into today, with the extremes. And I think we would hope that New York State is the extreme.
they are.
And I hope it doesn't go further than that.
It will.
Otherwise, a year-old child may be able to get dropped by the dad
Exactly.
at a mall. You know, so I'll be honest. I'm really on the fence about this because I have a very huge basis in religion and faith. And then I also have a very progressive mind as I've evolved. So where do I fall on this? And it's very difficult because what I've seen in my life is it's easy to say you're pro-life unless it affects your 16-year-old daughter. Unless it affects your 16-year-old daughter that is a 4.0 student and has a scholarship offered from all sorts of universities that will pretty much, if she stays the course, will allow her to have a lifetime of a different dynamic than if she chooses a different option. That's when it becomes personal.
Yeah.
I've never had that happen before. I've never had that happen before.
You're next.
So when it becomes personal, whether you're talking about racism, abortion, immigration, whatever these topics are that we discussed tonight, if it becomes personal, it's different. If it's your house, here's the difference in these topics for me. If it happens between your mailbox and out, it's easy. If it happens between your mailbox and in, it's hard. So I'm not done yet. It's my turn, fucker. Lloyd's over there thinking, I'll put my finger
I'm coming
up.
in.
He
Coming
put
in.
his- all right, that fucking finger does nothing in this discussion, ever.
It's best to just walk in, man. It's just
Yeah.
you know,
So here, abortion is something that I have a real problem with because scientists will tell you that 21 weeks and out is when a fetus can survive on its own. So are we to say that scientifically that 21 weeks and in you can have an abortion? I don't know. And there's also statistics that say, and not just statistics, but scientists will say that there are contraceptives out there that will allow the egg to be fertilized, and therefore that contraceptive alone is an abortion because the egg has been fertilized by the sperm. So where do we draw that line? I think that's what happens
the
here.
big question.
Because in churches today, and we can make this is absolutely a church topic.
yes.
The Catholic Church says no contraceptives at all.
Right.
I have a few reasons for that. I'm not going to get into it now. But that's what they said. And I think that's probably easy. If you do it, you're wrong. If you don't, you're right. If you don't do it, you're right. If you do it, you're wrong. It's black and white. I really like black and white. I don't think it's right in this circumstance.
We haven't started down the racist topic yet.
But I do like black and white because in my life, as I've gotten older, things have become a lot more gray. Black and white's easy. And then we have other Christian church, Church of Christ, Protestant churches, whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, birth control's fine."
Yeah.
They may preach abstinence, but just in case, be on the birth control,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And if it happens, we won't tell the parishioners, "You're going away to summer camp."
For 8 months.
Right.
Right.
So it becomes really real. All right, when I was 18 years old, I had a girl I went out with and I'd hooked up with, and I was in the church as a preacher, and I was getting ready to go to seminary. And she called me up and she said, "I just had an abortion." I was 18, she was 17.
That's jail.
And I was like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "How do you feel about it?" She goes, "I'm really fucked up about it." And I'm like, "Me too." I'm like, "Is it mine?" She goes, "I don't know." But in my mind's eye, it may have been mine. And here I am getting ready to go to seminary and preach the word, and I was very devout because, but guess what? I wasn't. I wasn't devout enough not to fuck her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of faith, is you're devout until you're not,
Right.
because your desire exceeds your devoutness.
Right.
And I thought,
in many cases.
yeah.
yes.
And I'm like, that brought it home to me. Now, she never ever said it was mine. And knowing her, probably wasn't. And not to discredit her.
Right.
Right.
But that minute, that was the first time I ever thought about it in a practical way. Not just a holistic way. Not just in a way that doesn't affect me and yours.
Right.
I think it's a lot easier when you think about it as other people instead of people
Absolutely.
that you know.
Absolutely.
Your niece, your cousin, your daughter. What does it look like when you have someone that has this happen and it changes their whole future dependent upon what they decide? And on the other side of this, and I'm not going to give you my opinion because honestly at this point, the way it has reached what it is now, I don't know. Because if you say you're a pro-abortion and you're a pro what New York State legalized, that's tough, guys. It's really tough. And if you say you're not a pro-abortion, if you're pro-life, oh my God, what does that look like?
Yeah.
I was in Arizona that was a pro-choice state. And next to my office was an abortion clinic. And I would go out in my truck every day at lunch, and I'd eat my lunch and take a nap. I had an hour lunch. And I would watch women walk into the abortion clinic, and I'd watch them walk out. And then I'd watch protesters, and I'd watch how they would beat down these women, these girls. And I'm like, where would I be if this were my wife, my girlfriend, my daughter, my niece? It really bothered me. And honestly, at this point, I don't know.
I'm ashamed of this behavior now, but I was a young kid. I was part of them protesters, the pro-choice side.
I went to Washington,
Back in the
D.C. and
day.
protested I was a pro-lifer
Yeah.
that went to D.C. and protested the abortion.
I've
And I remember seeing, I saw the zealots in my movement standing there with fetuses in a jar. And I'm like, oh my God. And anytime you see the extremes, it brings you back to.
And I was in that pro-choice extreme back in the day. I was in some pretty violent clashes. There's a couple of folks out there who didn't walk right after we had run-ins, and they're probably still not walking right. And I'm ashamed of that now. But that's just part of the evolution of growing up too.
Right. And I think we talked about in the religious podcast,
Right.
is we can get rather brainwashed as a child because we don't have perspective. We don't have a litmus test of saying, all right, what you're saying, yeah, because I know you and you're important to me, that matters, but there's a different perspective that we're going to, that weighs it out. We don't have that. Looks like Lloyd's trying to talk.
I think he's trying to
Well,
talk.
when you brought up the example of the 16-year-old girl who has a bright future, 4.0 student, all this stuff, and all she's done is made a mistake. And there's a way.
Was it a mistake? Because all right, in your life,
She's made a
in
mistake.
Lloyd's life, in Ruth's life, and in my life, how many times could you have been a daddy that you've not been? Is
I
it
can't
her
count that
mistake?
high.
Is it her mistake or our mistake?
Well,
It was,
I don't mean to say it in a way that it means it's just on her, but I'm just saying.
But at the end of the day, it is on her. Because when she wakes up one night and doesn't get her period, that's on her.
I don't like to use the word the mistake there, because two people walking down the street, they trip and they fall on one another. They don't fuck immediately. This was a poor decision. And that's something we're all victims of. We've all made poor decisions. We've all had mistakes, but 9 times out of 10, those mistakes aren't directly, it wasn't a
It doesn't
a
affect the rest of your
conscious
life.
decision. Well, and it also wasn't a conscious decision, right? What I came damn close several times falling into was a result of my poor decision, and and my wife, and my girlfriend then, now wife.
So I had a young lady I was dating after my first marriage, and we were doing everything right. We were using protection and everything, and then one time after we got done, she's like, "It broke." What? She said, "It broke." I'm like, and we were already coming up with names.
Yeah.
She didn't end up being pregnant. We were very fortunate. But I wasn't ready to marry her.
Right.
She wasn't ready to be a mother. Right? We were just having fun. So I think it's a lot easier if you look at it as a topic that people debate, as
Well,
opposed to something that affects your home, your family, your life.
Yeah, and we kind of got sidetracked here over the discussion of a mistake versus poor decision, and we've all kind of said our piece here. Lloyd, have at it.
All right, Lloyd, go right ahead.
Oh, no,
Oh, we're done talking. Let's let Lloyd talk.
Yeah,
No,
Because
we're
we
done.
need to drink right now.
So let's say it's let's call it a poor decision then, but that seems to be the only one of the few poor decisions that there's a remedy for, but in some cases they're not allowed to remedy that situation.
What is that?
You know, that is the one. That is the. It's like, oh well, you know, we can forgive you for lots of things, but you know, well, I'm sorry you're pregnant, but you're just stuck. You know.
And I think it goes back to the point of drawing a line. When is the right time to make the decision? Now, pro-life folk will say when the woman decides to spread her legs.
Her legs, right?
All right, that's just not
That's
all
bullshit.
right.
That's
That's
bullshit.
not all right, because for every woman, all right, it's a. I'm now turning into Root. I'm throwing out a barrage of it's.
James,
That and the wild
James-
turkey ain't helping him.
James the talent.
I know. I just wanted to try to be more like him.
Everybody wants to be more like Root.
but-
I'm the skill guy.
But here, you know, when you have two individuals that it is a innate desire, you can't hold one of them accountable and the other
Right.
one not.
Exactly.
That's right.
Those kinds of arguments harkens back to, well, you know, he's just a good old boy. He's going to do his thing.
And she's a whore.
And she's a whore. And
And we don't believe that shit.
I don't. You know.
You will never, I will tell you what, I am only one of 4 parts of this podcast, but I will never, ever allow anything in this podcast to be slut shaming or horse shaming or anything like that.
Yeah.
I will not, because for every guy that got laid and he was a dude, there was a girl that was a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
She was not a slut. He was not a stud.
Yep.
It took 2 ways to have that happen.
Exactly.
And I will
Exactly.
never allow that to
Yeah,
happen
yeah,
on this
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah,
So
And
please continue.
I wouldn't let that go unchallenged either.
That's why we do this.
It is.
Because we
It
may
is.
disagree on a lot of stuff. It ain't that.
It ain't that. We mentioned it several times tonight. We, as individuals, must be held accountable for our actions. And in that kind of scenario, both parties are equally responsible for the outcome there. It may have been a poor decision. It may have been a lapse in birth control.
It could have been an antibiotic.
It could have been anything that affected the birth control.
It could have been anything.
Because I was married. And I was with a woman that said she could not have children. And she was on birth control to regulate her periods.
Mm-hmm.
I was called over to the house one day during my lunch hour.
That's a hell of a thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm like, hey, darling, what's up? I'm pregnant. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
And he turned into Root.
And then what I just assumed it was my super sperm. It was my
Of
super
course it
sperm.
was.
She
That's
could not
exactly
have
what it
children.
was.
She was on birth control. Super
Here's
sperm.
James. Yeah, here's James.
Here I come to save the day.
Supposed to wreck the day. Sorry.
And then later on, I have twins. So I got my shit snipped. So there's no more. Put the super sperm over to the side. But and she looked at me, and we were married.
Mm-hmm.
We were married, and we were taking the proper precautions, and we still had it happen.
Yeah.
Luckily for us, we were in a position to where we could handle that situation and see it through its maturity. And I have a beautiful son and 2 beautiful daughters.
Right.
And I'm very blessed. I cannot say how much I'm blessed by having them. But I went into that thinking there was no chance I could have any children at all. And I hammered it like it was borrowed. And then my super sperm showed up, and that's where I
And
ended.
there you go. And I've mentioned this a few times too.
About my super sperm?
No.
Well, please continue to
No,
mention it in
I
future
will never,
podcasts.
ever echo those words.
I will.
Of course you will. Of
Lloyd,
course you will.
if you want to be on this podcast, you will too.
No,
He's
Lloyd,
already said I'm on it.
I've mentioned this several times tonight, and you'll hear me say it again. These kinds of situations is really where this faith community has to step forward again, and you don't do it with the shaming thing. They don't go to what did you call it? Summer camp. That's right. There is no 8-month-long summer camp, folks. The faith community has to step
Alaska.
forward and take care of these children. And
Well, I think there's a bigger purpose here. Is the arguments for pro-choice is let the person carry the baby to term and adoption and foster care and all that sort of stuff. Here's the thing, and this has been a long podcast. We appreciate you sticking with it.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, when it becomes personal, it changes the dynamic. And luckily for us, I think I can speak for all of us, it's never became personal for us.
not directly.
Right. But we can imagine.
Yeah.
I have a 23-year-old daughter. That's personal, if it were to happen to her.
Mm-hmm.
We have nieces. We have nephews.
Mm-hmm.
We always say it's about the woman.
ain't.
What about the guy?
It ain't. Yeah,
Because a seed doesn't get sowed unless there's somebody throwing that seed.
that's right.
That's right, Junior. You threw it. Keep it in your pants, boy. But the fact that people think and assume that imply that it is very black and white, I have a hard time understanding how they can think it is. Now, I don't have a problem, and I do have a problem, whether it's from conception, whether it is within the 21 weeks. I want to say that's a huge, huge decision that takes more than one person to make that will affect them for the rest of their life. And whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, it affects them for the rest of their life. If you make the decision to do it, whether you want to have the abortion or you don't, your life has changed
Yep.
Yeah.
from that
Yep.
point forward.
That's right.
If you don't think it has, wait.
Yeah, and
Regardless of what you decide.
Right.
Because there are grown-ass people that have that same decision to make that don't know what it means to make either one of them.
right.
Whether it be having a baby or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge decision.
Yeah, and it can be crippling. It can be crippling.
Now, as a gubernatorial type decision, I don't know where that stands. I mean, Roe versus Wade still stands, and we've had Reagan, we have had Bush, we have had 16 years of anti-abortion, and it still stands. And we have had 16 years of pro-abortion, and it's not changed.
And I know why. I know why it hasn't changed. So far as legislation is concerned.
Not a big enough deal.
No, it's a huge deal. It keeps these motherfuckers getting reelected. They use it as a political football.
All right, so does the coroner in Franklin County. The Franklin County coroner will run on pro-abortion or
Right.
and
And
they're
what
like,
the fuck does he have to say about
and
it?
he's like, and all of us morons going, I'm a pro-lifer. I ain't voting for him.
Well, there's a lot of just single
And
issue
like-
voters too. They're just like,
Right,
oh,
and-
I'm only looking for the guy who's pro-life or pro-choice.
And guess what?
That's
the
a massive
coroner in
problem.
Franklin County has no voice in whether we have
Right.
abortion or not.
Right.
Because he's a fucking coroner.
And-
but the mouth-breathing knuckle draggers will vote for him
Mm-hmm.
because he agrees with whatever hot-button topic they have.
So long as the voters continue to cater to either party, whether they're pro-life, Democrats, pro-choice, Republicans, whatever the fuck, so long as we continue to cater to that mentality, we're going to continue to get what we've got. And there will be nary a decision, nary help made.
All right,
on
so
it.
what Root said is exactly right. As long as we cater to that, we don't have a chance of moving forward.
No, we don't.
And with that, we're going to end this podcast.
Because
This has been
government sucks.
no. This has been hard.
Yeah, this has not been an easy podcast.
I'm kind of used to these discussions, so it's
well,
been fun.
it's because of the people you don't hang out with.
No, it's because the people I hang out with talk about this shit
No, wait a
all
minute.
the
Wait a
time.
minute. Who have you hang out with the last month that's not me? Exactly.
My wife.
Right. Your wife. So thank you all for engaging us and enduring this podcast.
We really
It's going to
appreciate
be a long
it.
one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long one.
I promise you, moving forward, that it will be much more fun.
Until we hit the next big topic. Because we take these topics seriously,
And
folks.
this is the great thing that happened this past week. I put it out to some of our listeners. And
What,
they
wait,
would-
whoa. What did you put out to several of your listeners?
Not that, this.
Oh, okay.
I put it out. What would you like to hear us talk about? What topics would you like to hear us cover? And they came back with an amazing. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
it was within hours
Yeah.
of when I sent that out.
Well,
And
now
they
that
came
you
out-
ask, let me tell you.
I mean, my God, there was a list of shit that we could not even imagine. So, moving forward, we're going to talk about the shit that you want us to talk about,
Right.
because this is what we need this to be: is what you want us to talk about.
Right. And I can't speak for the other guys here and Alex, which
It's the first time he's never said that.
Alex, I hope you get that scarf issue fixed, pal.
Oh, and he's dreaming about you in his moments, his root moments.
We need to get a mannequin over here and just put a scarf on it.
Not the same.
No,
Not the same.
if you bring the mannequin, you have to sit over here, because the mannequin needs to be on root side.
Oh, I gotcha.
But we have our conversations here, and we really want your conversations in whether it's the Twitter account that we need to pay more attention to, honestly.
All right,
But
all right,
but
all right.
the
Really?
Facebook
Really?
page,
Really?
yes, we do.
How's
we
that
do.
YouTube channel looking?
Yeah,
Exactly.
and the YouTube channel.
exactly.
We're gonna try hard.
We're going to put that on Lloyd.
exactly. He's the new.
New guy.
slightlyuncomfortable.com. Check us out. Come by and see us. Register and speak your own mind. Welcome you.
I see how it is.
Bitch shows up. He's going to take care
New
of the Twitter.
guy.
We, we hit these big, important topics in our age here, and we encourage you guys. Come on in, join the conversation. Just be civil with one another, just like we've been.
Yeah.
You know, we poke fun at one another. We have fun here, but that's really how you cut through some of these high tension topics. Is you appreciate our differences,
And also-
we can discuss the shit
And also find a common ground.
and try and find some common ground.
Find a common
Absolutely.
ground and work away from it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and you'd be surprised. I mean, we have a libertarian, a conservative,
Yes.
and a liberal that have came to agreement far more than they've disagreed.
And why? Because not nary one of us. I
I love how he does. Like,
Nary.
he throws down the Andy Griffith.
I am
Nary. Not one of them. Nary. I ain't gonna speak to it.
I am damn proud of all three of us tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did good.
Not one time have we mentioned a talking head. We've mentioned some presidents, but they're
It's been in generalities.
yeah, and presidential administrations mark our political
8 years, 8 years,
growth.
8 years. Yeah.
Right, or not growth, hopefully not. But yeah.
Redundance.
Yes. But not one time have we devolved into, well, the Democrats, well, those damn Republicans, well, those
Well, that's just
crazy
like
li-
you fucking conservatives.
Right, right.
No, not one time.
Not one time have we done that tonight. So kudos, boys.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
damn fine work.
And anybody that's listening to this, you have your own political slant. We get that. And as do we. But if three people sit down at a table to talk about something, find the commonalities
Absolutely.
and work your way back from it.
Yep. That's where solutions are found.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's sad that three Kentuckians sitting in the fucking basement can
Drinking
figure
fine
out-
Kentucky bourbon.
that can figure that shit out.
Yeah.
All right. Did anybody ever see the Saturday Night Live episode?
Saturday Night Live, no.
No, it's really good. so the premise was Mitch McConnell
Oh, my God.
sat down with Barack Obama,
Oh gosh.
They're a fine pair.
and Mitch brought bourbon,
Okay.
and they started drinking with every issue.
Okay.
And at the end of the night, they're hugging each other.
I don't
and
doubt it in a minute. There's not a dime's worth of difference between the two.
So here's the thing: read the fucking bourbon,
Yeah.
and shit gets solved. That's what we're
Like
That's
I
right.
think
We're
so.
solving
Yeah,
problems
yeah,
here.
The fact that Lloyd brought bourbon, shit gets solved.